It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Cathy Gellis, our favorite attorney, is here. She joins Jeff Jarvis and Paris Martineau. We will talk about the law, the TikTok ban, the future of AI, and how one remote Amazon tribe responded to getting internet access through Starlink. It's all coming up next on This Week in Google.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 771, recorded Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. Sucked to L.A. It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Oh, we're going to have a fun show today, I can tell. Not the least of which reasons is Mr. Jeff Jarvis, who was going to be sitting right next to me. Right
Jeff
here.
is fun. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. That was a very confused construction. I don't know what I actually just said. He is the former, soon-to-be former, but currently now Leonard.
No, I'm the emeritus.
The emeritus Leonard. He will once a Leonard Tao Professor for Journalistic Innovation, always a Leonard Tao Professor for Journalistic Innovation at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York. A little tired because he red-eyed back from California this morning.
I was going to be in Petaluma today, and I was looking forward to it. But, I'd have to take bridges to get back to the airport. So
no good.
I came straight back from Sacramento, no bridges.
No bridges. Paris Martineau is also here from the Information and Martineau.01 on the Signal. Hi, Paris.
I was not supposed to be in Petaluma, but yet I'm still here on the East Coast.
I wish you were. But we don't have anything
me too.
as hip as your little movie theaters that you have there in Brooklyn. And
it's
Manhattan.
True. Nothing close.
Like that. Oh, I'm so jealous. So jealous. Also with us in studio, we're thrilled to have her, Cathy Gellis, attorney at law, cgcounsel.com, contributor at Tech Dirt, and ready and willing and able at any time to bring a case before the United States Supreme Court.
I brief, but I'm also ready, willing, and able to come to Petaluma.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, we're not nearly as close as the U.S. Supreme Court, but we're
I have
much
not
more
forsaken
convivial.
you. I will come to Petaluma.
Thank you, Cathy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think we should start the show with an oyez, because Cathy's there.
Oye. Now, is it oye or oyez?
I think they say oye. They do actually shout it at the Supreme Court oral arguments, but everybody's sort of sitting there kind of abuzz, and I'm trying to replay my memory of what have I heard. But there's a crack of a gavel, which is actually kind of loud and shocking.
It's the equivalent of a hear ye.
What is
hear
it?
Ye,
Yeah.
hear ye.
Oh.
O-Y-E-Z, which is French for...
Here, I think.
Listen, yeah. Oye, oye, oye. In fact, if I play...
From the French to here.
Yeah, this is the wonderful website, oye.org, where you can actually listen to cases being argued in front of the Supreme Court, read about cases by term. It's a really nice Supreme Court research.
Is the gavel a successor to the mace you'd pound on the floor?
This has probably been documented somewhere, but I don't know. But the etymology of the bar is basically the same for alcohol bars and...
No.
And because you would go up to a thing that physically had a bar, in front of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Here, let me see if I want to play back some oral argument from a random thing. See if they say the oye.
We'll hear argument next in case 2351.
I think you'd miss it.
I missed
I think it's before.
When the justices come in, right?
Yeah,
told
there's
to
a
rise.
gavel crack and the clerk shouts, and because they tell you to rise. So by the time Roberts is speaking, the justices have filed in, sat down, then everyone else has sat down, and then he starts talking. So this is like almost a minute into it by the time you hear him on the recording.
Wish we could hear that.
Yeah, and they don't let you have devices or anything, so there's no way of
It's the clerk of the court that's saying it, right? Or no?
A clerk of some form
clerk.
is doing it.
They don't have a guy in uniform.
I mean, there are people in uniform,
But not funny, fancy uniform.
No, it is. I mean, no, it doesn't look like England with that pomp and pageantry. It's somebody.
So
wearing
Congress, if I may answer my question, Congress adopted two symbols of authority borrowed from the British.
The mace.
The House of Representatives adopted the mace, and the Senate used the gavel to bring the body to order.
Yeah.
Fun gavel facts from Wikipedia. The unique gavel of the United States Senate has an hourglass shape and no handle. In 1954, the gavel that had been in use since at least 1834 broke when Richard Nixon used it during a heated debate on nuclear energy, despite the addition of silver plates. They were unable to obtain a piece of ivory large enough to replace the gavel, so they appealed to the Indian embassy. Later that year, India's VP presented them with an ivory replacement, but because people were like, what the heck, illegal ivory trades, they replaced that with a white marble gavel, which is in use today.
I've seen them. They don't have the handle. They just have they hold the thing and they go like that.
Yeah, and that may be even the traditional styling. I won a gavel once. In law school, a classmate and I won runner-up best brief for a moot court competition, and our prize, of which there was one, was a gavel. And when we got back to the school never really asked, like, did they give you a prize? Because apparently they have a trophy case, and they didn't ask for the trophy to put in the case. Oh, thank goodness.
You get to keep it.
So we kept it, but we've got a custodial agreement for it because one gavel, two people. I'm a Yankee fan. He's a Red Sox fan.
Oh, that's hysterical.
So we've negotiated based on the head-to-head matchups for the season of who gets it. And then we negotiated this where so nobody would monopolize it if there was a tie. Like normally, we didn't want to have to send it back and forth all the time. So if there's a tie, you keep it. But if there's too many ties, then somebody's kind of hogged it. Yeah. So we negotiated that there would be an automatic flip. But it turned out to be really bad one year because there was a flip, but like the Yankees had won the World Series and I had to give the gavel back. And it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. I clearly had the better team and the better bragging rights. So we negotiated an addendum so that won't happen anymore.
I have a gavel for the best briefs, but that was in college, and
that's a fraternity.
That's a fraternity.
Yeah. Okay.
No, actually, I do have a gavel somewhere, and I don't know why. It has I can remember it having a plaque on it.
Yeah, you need it when I start doing things you don't want to do.
I want my gavel.
Order!
I need my order. All right, that's not what we're here to talk about. But that was a fascinating.
We're driving the fans completely nuts.
This week in Gavel.
This week in Gavel.
They say, "Oyez, oyez, will all ye who have business before the United States Supreme Court come and listen," or something like that. There's a whole spiel, right?
Come hither.
I don't remember.
Come hither and be heard.
There might be a spiel, but I don't think it's that long. I mean, it's kind of blocked out because the hearings just become somewhat traumatizing.
Have you been there, though, at that?
And the last one I was at.
All persons having business before the Supreme Court of the United States are admonished to draw near and give their attention, for the court is now sitting. God save the United States and this honorable court.
Oh, and then...
Isn't that amazing? That is definitely out of the British jurisprudence.
And then before Robert starts talking about a case... the first thing they do is they do the bar admissions, where they go through this. He basically calls out or the clerk reads a motion that so-and-so moves to have this person admitted to the bar, and so-and-so verifies that they are of good character, et cetera. Uh-huh. And they go through that spiel, and Robert says something like, "It shall be so ordered," or something like that. And so for each individual person scheduled to be sworn in that day, that happens. And something that lawyers do is if they want to get into a hearing that's going to be really tough to get into, is if they haven't been sworn in before, they try to arrange it so they'll be sworn in that day because it gets them into the courtroom. And the other workaround is be the motion person for somebody who's going to get sworn in that day, and that will get you into the courtroom. So.
Our engineer, Patrick Delahanty, whose father was a U.S. attorney for the District of Maine and then later a judge, has a gavel collection. He says his dad never used gavels. By the way, Red Sox fan, I think you can see that. Never used gavels in court, but he has this giant one, which was given as an award.
That's a big gavel.
You could bean somebody with that sucker.
That's what Stacy wanted to use on you, Leo.
Well, we have a choice. I have a choice of devices I can use for the show. Give me the wooden one. Just this, if necessary, I can use this Louisville Slugger, set. Which, by the way, has a little inscription on it, which reads, "Congratulations, Leo, on 100 TwitNetcasts, 2007." So that's been around for a while. But if failing that, if I need to, I have this sword that I can use to cleave your head.
I love the
from
posing.
its shoulders. Yeah, that's
good.
Or
to benight you. I think you've been
night,
night.
people.
Kathy, yes.
This also has an inscription.
I am suddenly wondering why I came to Petaluma today. It seems really dangerous.
This is why Jeff left.
I'm smart enough to not be there.
I mean, as a series of weaponry comes and is put on my right side.
This was a gift from 11D, which does graphics and as an agency, I think.
Is it
to
actually sharp?
Well, it's got a little plastic thing on the tip. Should I test it? No, maybe better not. Better not. And then this thing, I don't know. That's crazy. And then, of course, we have what we call jokingly, what do you call it? Molinear, the hammer of the gods. Molinear. Oh God, that thing is
Mini. Yeah.
that is. Whoa, sorry. That is dangerous. Please take all of this paraphernalia away.
Please take the
You're
arsenal
making Kathy,
away.
You're making Kathy nervous.
Yeah, Burke, where are all your chainsaws?
Oh my gosh, no.
Don't ask. Don't ask.
No, I don't need the sling box. So we looked for the gavel. That's why all this paraphernalia emerged. We looked for the gavel, but
Do you just
I
have a
misplaced it.
room of weaponry?
I have all sorts of crap. Don't bring me the projector. I hope that we don't have to have
projector.
I hope we don't have to have a Swedish death cleaning here because it is going to be a nightmare.
As long as I get to choose mine.
You could choose.
Okay.
You know what, Kathy? Here, I'm going to present this to you. You can take this with you on your way home. This is. This was used. I don't know how. This is used to show, I think in classroom, I don't know, show slides.
Oh, the ungrounded plug is really spectacular.
Oh, this thing is, this is an antique. I don't know why we have it, but we do.
Leo is pushing the mic away from himself.
Oh my gosh, look at that. That's for slideshows. Yeah.
I think we should do a thing where, kind of like when you come back from CES, where you have all the stuff on the table,
but it's
just
all
be
like
all your
the
weaponry.
20s.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, our weaponry. Yeah.
Amongst his weaponry are such diverse elements as
Yes, I don't know. We should.
A projection
we gotta figure out because we
machine.
probably. I'll be honest. We are probably closing the studio in a month, so I'm going to have to do something with all this stuff. So maybe we should have like a day where anybody can come and take anything they want.
Leo, I'll take any weapon you're
want a
willing
weapon?
to ship to
Do you
Brooklyn.
want that sword?
Yeah, I'd like a weapon or a projector or any other fun stuff.
Okay,
I was
send
just
you
going to say I don't have any weaponry. I think
a
in my
care
home,
package.
which is a
You
problem.
should. You live in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You need weapons.
Go to Petaluma and try to get back on the plane with that sword.
With that sword, yeah, I think it'll go really well. Coming from me, a woman who's been detained by security for trying to bring a hammock on the plane once.
What? Really?
What?
Yeah, it was like a rope hammock. It was a problem.
Oh,
if
Why
I
was it
had
a problem?
hammock-
because you might strangle the pilot with a hammock.
I guess because there was like a wood component to it that I guess could bop someone on the head with it. but
Holy cow!
I
So
don't
what
think
happened?
it's-
Did
they-
you check it?
I think I had to give it to them. I couldn't take the hammock with me.
Oh my God! What a loss!
They take
Yeah, it
mashed
was pretty sad.
potatoes, which I also don't.
What?
Yeah, I think
They
they're upset
confiscated
about-
my cream cheese once
Yes.
too.
Yeah, and apparently they've changed the rules, but they won't tell you where the rules are published that anything viscous in any form. Well, no, apparently it
But
doesn't have
not
to be very
frozen.
viscous. I don't know.
I know this because once I've multiple times tried to take lox, cream cheese, and bagels on the plane home for my parents. And every time they inspect the salmon and they're like, all right, we'll let this. And they get to the cream cheese and they're like, no. Last time someone told me they would have let it pass if it was frozen, which I don't understand.
That seems like
but-
it'd be more
Yes,
dangerous.
more of a weapon.
Yeah.
You can throw the brick of cream cheese.
Yeah, I don't think this is well publicized, well advertised, or well premised. I think they are sort of like, well, if the liquids could explode, there's some gels that it could explode, in which case,
Oh yeah,
your
cream cheese
potatoes.
looks like C3 and could be.
I'm not sure the people setting or enforcing the policy
it's very
are,
ad hoc. It's security theater.
quite
It's
the
not.
brightest necessarily.
Like drinking a music festival, a new way of making coffee. I don't know.
This was a cool story.
What?
I saw you put it in there.
Australian scientists have developed a method of brewing coffee by blasting ground beans with sound waves. You can actually, here they are, the three scientists, coffee consultant Craig Heron, senior lecturer Francisco Trujillo, PhD student Nikonj, I'm going to mispronounce your name, Nikonj Naliyadhara, drinking a fine cup of coffee made by this, what looks like an everyday Breville coffee maker. Notice it's hooked up to some interesting devices. There's a transducer attached to it to send sound waves, high-frequency sound waves, into the coffee. The coffee is first infused in water for 5 seconds. Then, as the machine releases room temperature, onto the coffee grinds, a transducer, a device connected to the portafilter, pushes sound waves through the basket and into the coffee grinds. Trujillo describes it as an opera singer's voice making a glass vibrate so intensely that it breaks. The coffee grinds are vibrating. They don't break, but the fluctuations in pressure help the water extract more flavor from the inside of the coffee grounds and producing a fine cup of coffee. Now, the only reason I mention this, I mentioned it on Sunday on Twit and got a fantastic message from NMR Don in our club Twit. I was listening to Twit as I've done for years when I could have been knocked over with a feather. You started talking about coffee made with ultrasound. I am the ultrasonic coffee man. And I mispronounced his name. Well, my name is on the paper, and I would like to thank you for the promotion. Ignoble in our future? Who knows? I don't quite think you understand the intensity Australians take their coffee with. We are talking West Side Story level of conflict over who makes better coffee. Here's the funny thing. I don't drink coffee, but it's okay since I use analytical instruments in my lab to tell the actual coffee people how it's better than normal coffee. My main work at the University of New South Wales in Sydney is, and get ready for this, doing AI protein structural biology, AlphaFold, and all of the things that go along with it. I'm the guy yelling at the TV, watching CSI shows saying it doesn't work that way, or when people talk about AI and structural biology saying it doesn't work that way. Micah got it about 95% right, and I was really impressed how he integrated a very complicated platform. So, Mr. Don, if you are watching, if we get anything wrong about AI today, especially AI and biochemistry, please let us know.
I also, if I may, the product, the description of the Guardian story, I'll quote, it's extraordinarily powerful, aromatic, acidic, rich, and viscous. But unlike an espresso, it's not bitter or harsh.
Yes.
It's also not, as Trujillo's latest paper says, a cold brew. Cold brew is made by steeping coffee cold grounds in water for hours and tastes subtle, floral, and lacking in both acidity and bitterness, the coffee equivalent of a night of poetry and incense. This is like drinking a music festival.
Well,
isn't that wonderful?
As a coffee snob, I'll say properly made espresso shouldn't be bitter, but I think that sounds wonderful.
Well, people tend to over-extract it, as you know, coffee snob.
Yes.
So I'm going to see if we can get Mr. Don to provide us with an example somehow of this.
Is he based in Australia?
Yeah, unfortunately, he's based in.
Can you fly the coffee?
Can
to
you
Petaluma?
fly here with your coffee?
No, it's a liquid.
You
won't
get a sword.
All right, enough. Let's move on.
That was a fun story.
I know, and I wanted to lead with that because he's a member of Club Twit, which is pretty fantastic.
Instead, we led with gavels and weaponry.
Gavels, weaponry, and oye, oye, oye. But I was thinking that we should begin each show with an oye, oye, oye.
That's what I was suggesting at the beginning, especially when Cathy's here.
Yes.
You should do it in honor of Cathy.
I think that'll really help our problem of trying to make the show less inscrutable. You know, I think people will really get along with
That's what this show needs. More Latin, I think, would be good.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about TikTok. The saga, the sad saga of TikTok. You remember that when Trump was president, he proposed banning TikTok, Chinese something or other, blah, blah, blah. Get rid of it. Then later, after it turned out one of the biggest shareholders in ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, 15% was a major Republican donor. A never Trumper, but, never say never, as we know. And I think the Donald thought, this guy might be able to give me some money. So all of a sudden, he's come out in favor of TikTok. And now Trump has a TikTok account, as does President Biden, who signed the bill banning TikTok. Both of them are active on TikTok. Both of them, I think, see it as an important platform to be on. And TikTok, on for its part, and this is a story from Puck News, Tara Palmieri writing, the Trump-TikTok flirtation. TikTok realizes how important it is to get these American politicians to love it. So in what some might say was a cynical ploy, TikTok actually lobbied the former president, telling him since November, according to two TikTok officials, that there's been twice as much pro-Trump content as pro-Biden content on the platform. 1.29 million positive Trump videos or images with 9.1 billion views compared to less than half that for positive Biden posts. According to an internal TikTok analysis, videos tagged Trump 2024 have generated nearly 500,000 likes and 6.5 billion views compared with 50 million likes and 558 million views for Biden 2024. And they, I think, went to the Trump campaign and said, look, your fans are here. In fact, now how do you feel about banning TikTok? Conservatives like Charlie Kirk, Johnny McAtee, Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson all do really well with multi-million people followings on TikTok. RFK Jr.'s TikTok has 1.2 million followers. He tweeted last month, Congress and the administration don't understand that TikTok is an entrepreneurial platform for thousands of American young people. They want to screw them over just so they can pretend to be tough on China. You know, I don't often agree with RFK Jr.
No, but
I think he's got,
clock has,
yeah, twice a day.
Yeah.
So, and now Trump has joined TikTok with, there's a, at
I will
MAGA
say
handle.
the quote from Politico describing, I'll just read how they described Trump's first TikTok. Quote, the president is now on TikTok, UFC CEO Dana White said, introducing Trump in the video. It is my honor, Trump replied, as American Badass by Kid Rock played in the background.
It's my honor, your honor. He says that a lot these days, actually. Well, now I'm not sure. I think we should ban TikTok.
No.
It's full of right-wing nonsense.
Also, I will say, I just looked up the Trump 2024 hashtag on TikTok, and I mean, the second most popular video that shows up is pranking my boss by putting a thank you for donating to Trump flyer on his desk or in his mail. So I don't know.
All positive
I think that part of it seems like this is savvy political maneuvering by a company that's trying to make sure that it continues to exist no matter the political administration.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Well, they've done. I think we had a story last week how they volunteered to have their board, the U.S. board approved, to have a military-related organization check its code. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And they just made another, I think, effort to bend over backwards to say, don't get rid of us. Well, what do you want us to do? But they're being ignored.
I think that was it was a news story about an old offer. I don't think the offer was contemporaneous.
This is the U.S. copy.
Yeah, they had offered that and been ignored. Been just said, no, we're still going to ban you. We don't care what you do. In other words,
I don't know if that was a good offer to make, but it's moot at this point. I don't think you want the answer to be yes, and I'm not sure the answer can be yes, but anyway, they offered it and it was not. But I think the administration probably would have had a legal problem with saying yes to that, because all the jawboning stuff that everybody's really upset about, that I don't know if you get around the jawboning problem by basically putting an entity in such a predicament where they have to say, yes, please, you get to drive. That is about as close to jawboning as you could get, where they had no choice but to make that offer. I don't think it's a particularly good constitutional one or a good policy for the administration to take.
What's going to happen in the courts? They have sued, saying you can't shut us down. First Amendment. You've argued in favor of the right to read and the First Amendment rights of TikTok and its users.
Right. Well, stand by a little bit longer because we're still waiting for two big decisions out of the Supreme Court, and I think that will paint the internet regulation terrain significantly. Because depending on what they do with these decisions depends on what leverage both plaintiffs and defendants will have. So there's a part of me that's like, I think it's too soon to tell, because I could tell you something today and it may actually change literally tomorrow.
So what are these decisions that are?
We are still waiting for the net choice cases to have.
That's the Texas and Florida social media laws.
Right. Basically, those are standing for the proposition that platforms themselves have their own First Amendment rights to decide to exercise their own editorial discretion, even though they are also moderating other people's expression.
That's NetChoice's position. Of course, Attorney General Paxton for Texas is the one who says otherwise, right?
He says otherwise. The Fifth Circuit says otherwise, and also the state of Florida is saying otherwise. But the 11th Circuit mostly did not put up with Florida's argument. So the platforms are in a better position coming out of Florida. They're in a terrible position coming out of Texas. But Texas is where the First and the Fifth Circuit is where the First Amendment goes to die. So
doesn't everything up in the air as soon as you get in front of the Supreme Court? Like, they seem to have their own agenda.
They do, but the one thing they have not been working nearly as badly as everything else, and they've actually been doing a reasonably even decent job ruling consistently with past doctrine, is in the First Amendment department. So there's one other pending case, which is the Murty versus Missouri, which was the allegations of jawboning that when the Biden administration was talking to platforms about cybersecurity issues, immunology issues, vaccinations, things like that, that was somehow that caused censor, because that then flowed through the platforms and led to certain speech and speakers getting kicked off the platform, that they thought that was illegal censorship via an intermediary. And so that we're still waiting for the Supreme Court to rule. But they just ruled in a different case called NRA versus Volo, where I don't remember the name of her office, but she was like the head of the Department of Insurance for New York State. And the NRA needs to be able to engage with insurance providers. I forget entirely why. I think because they sell something or something like that. But they have these business relationships. And in order to stick it to the NRA, because she does not like what they have to say, she went and pressured all the insurance companies they wanted to do business with and said, nice business you've got. If you do business with the NRA, I'm going to make sure that we enforce the crap out of you. And this chilled the insurance companies. So
this was right after the Florida high school.
It was right. I mean,
2018.
I'm not saying that and actually the court
I know where
saying,
her heart was, but she had no right as a government official to tell people not to do business.
The thing that came out of that decision is she has the right to persuade, but she doesn't have the right to coerce. Now, somewhat an open question of
she crossed over the line.
Can you tell the difference? But here the court decided you definitely crossed the line. And by the way, what we've already articulated in an older case called Bantam Books is, no, like, you're allowed to enforce, you're allowed to persuade, but there's a certain point where it comes together and it's like, no, you can't pressure intermediaries in order to achieve a censorial result you would not be able to do yourself. And that's what she tried to do.
A unanimous ruling, the decision written by Justice Sotomayor, said that she'd gone too far. It's Maria Volo, the head of the New York Department of Financial Services. She'd gone too far, crossed the line into coercion. However, they did say that when the case returns to the Court of Appeals, the lower court could consider whether Volo is entitled to qualified immunity.
Well, that had been brought up earlier, and I think they found that she was. And Sotomayor's language is basically like, no, you lost on the First Amendment ground, and this is a ripe issue that could be rethought. But it's not they didn't endorse it. They just said that the issue is not dead.
What does this have to do with TikTok? How do these seemingly unrelated decisions, NetChoice and this latest NRA decision, affect the TikTok
All
case?
of these things have to do with some core First Amendment doctrine, and what the basic. When the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law, what is the scope of that protection and how does it apply? And these are sort of some foundational pillars that you'll then take and apply to something like the TikTok decision. What rights does TikTok have itself as a speaker? What rights does TikTok have as a platform? What can the government do to shape how it conducts its business? What can the government not do to affect how it does its business? And all of these things these cases that we're talking about at the Supreme Court are all the Supreme Court considering these building blocks and bringing them up into internet time. And we get to find out if these doctrines survive, and do they survive as applied to the internet? And will the Supreme Court give us some hints as to how? The Volo decision is a good one from a First Amendment doctrinal standpoint. And if you've got something that's upholding First Amendment protections, that's going to help TikTok. The ruling in favor of NetChoice will help TikTok, and ruling in favor of the Biden administration, ironically, will help TikTok.
They haven't yet ruled on the net.
They haven't. No, we're waiting for net choice.
Cathy, can I ask you? Mm-hmm. So once you get those two decisions out, you said to be prepared for something. Are you going to then start filing front of the court documents in the TikTok case?
I mean, whether I do sort of depends on the logistics of, do I hear about the case and can I produce something in time, and do I have a client with which we can bring something to the table? That would be interesting. I'm certainly interested, but I think
does the
TikTok,
Copia Institute have a position on this? For
I don't know if it.
That's TechDirt's policy that you write for.
We've not had a formal discussion, but I think the editorial evidence is that we think the TikTok ban is bad.
Mike thinks it's bogus.
Sometimes Mike and I will disagree a little bit, not really about the principle, but sometimes the logistics of, I'll see arguments he won't see, he'll see arguments that I don't see, but we generally overlap.
That's why it's a good collegium.
We overlap to a striking extent more than I don't necessarily overlap with everybody else, because we'll see the First Amendment issues where other people like the policy result and may gloss over them a little bit more, and we will want to I want to call it out, even if calling it out means that we're going to get policy that we don't like. Like, I'm not gonna cheer too hard for the NRA, but I think it was absolutely right that they won in this case because there was a more important principle at stake.
So I want to take a little break. When we come back, one more fascinating story about the power of TikTok. Now, and I should have said this at the beginning. I'll have to give a disclaimer. My son, who is quite a successful chef, went from zero to everything on TikTok because of TikTok, with more than 2 million followers, selling his cookbook. He was able to move about half that audience to Instagram. But I am in favor of TikTok, if for no other reason that it turned my son into a celebrity chef. So I could see the power of TikTok. So I'll disclaim that I have a little bit of a dog in this hunt. I would love TikTok to continue for that reason alone. But if it may also be that there are other reasons that it's not good for national security. We'll talk about that. And another amazing TikTok success story in just a little bit. Cathy Gellis is here. She is, as you probably gathered, an attorney. She has argued in front of the Supreme Court, has written many a policy paper and an amicus brief for the Supreme Court for the Copia Institute, which is the arm of TechDirt. She also writes at TechDirt and is at cgcounsel.com. Also, Jeff Jarvis. Leo Laporte has absolutely no attorney information or standing at all, is an ignorant fool when it comes to the law. And then Paris Martineau, who's brilliant in everything. So we got a good round.
Yeah, I
table.
tried to be an attorney, but they said I'd be too powerful. So I've been disbarred in
You'd be
every
too
state.
good. You'd win every court, every case.
True.
Yep.
I was going to go to law school, but then I thought, I can't say yes, Your Honor, all the time. That won't work.
I was going to go to law school, but then the journalism thing worked out. But I've always got time.
Same here.
There's going to always be another layoff.
I was going to be a journalist, but I ended up in law school.
Yeah. So we got a failed journalist.
Wait a minute. I'm not sure that's the modifier.
Yeah, no, I think you're doing journalism.
I just want to say, I never wanted to be a lawyer or a journalist. I studied Chinese. So there, okay?
Well, you're perfect for the TikTok discussion.
Yeah, exactly. I have
you're
standing.
a spy. We knew it.
I have standing.
Leo, activate.
What were you going to do with that, Leo?
I am here to talk about TikTok. Actually, it was the anniversary of the Tiananmen massacre just a couple of days ago, and
let's talk about it because we're allowed to talk about it.
I was just saying, what a transition.
I know. Well,
from doing
Anderson
a little
Cooper
bit to the
started to
Tiananmen
do
Square
the
massacre.
anniversary thing, and they cut him right off in China, of course. I
Yeah.
saw I think it was on Instagram, of a Hong Kong police arresting a guy who was merely standing in a white shirt and with his hand drawing the date of Tiananmen. Wow. That was all it took, and they arrested him in Hong Kong. It is very much a sore subject still. How many years has it been? 20? It's 89, wasn't it? So it's more than that, 25 years, yeah.
Yeah, to those who say that the Chinese have a good model for the internet, we should follow their model for the internet. Pay attention, people.
Nope. Our show today brought to you by Delete Me. Now, here's a problem with our internet. And it's called data brokers. They are collecting your information. They buy it legally from your ISP, from your carrier, from sites you visit, from all of that data smog you leave behind. They collect, in effect, a dossier and then make it available to the highest bidder, including, I might add, both our government and the Chinese government. But even worse, a lot of that data is online. Have you ever searched for your name online? It is a nightmare. So much personal information, even your home address, your relatives, your phone numbers, your social media accounts, even your property values. That's all online. Maintaining privacy is so important. And it's not just important for you, it's important for your family too. I want to tell you how we've solved this here at Twit. We had this problem because phishers, scammers, used Lisa, our CEO, and my wife's phone number to attempt to convince her direct reports to buy and send Amazon gift cards. Now, fortunately, our staff is a little smarter than that, but it was close because and the thing that it made me realize is they know not only who Lisa is, where she works, what her phone number is, they know who her direct reports are and what their phone number is. All of that stuff's online. We immediately signed up for Delete Me. Delete Me's experts will find and remove your information from hundreds of data brokers. And it's great for your family, too. Now, an adult has to sign up for Delete Me. Use their family plan to make sure that everybody in your family feels safe online. You can assign a unique data sheet to each family member tailored to them. Easy-to-use controls. You can manage privacy settings for the whole family. Delete Me helps reduce risk from identity theft, from cybersecurity threats, phishing scams, like I just mentioned, harassment, and more. And the best part about Delete Me, they know every data broker. They can go to each of them. There are literally hundreds. Delete your information, but then they don't stop there. They continue to scan and remove your information regularly. Because guess what? It gets repopulated, including addresses, photos, emails, relatives, phone numbers, social media, property value, and more. Delete Me will take it offline. Protect yourself. Reclaim your privacy. Ensure your security by going to joindeleteme.com/twit. The promo code is TWIT, TWIT. Joindeleteme.com/twit. The offer code TWIT for 20% off. We thank them so much for their support. Joindeleteme.com/twit. Thank you, Join Delete Me.
Well, I was interested in this personally because data brokers are awful. I go to the link in the ad, and there is a testimonial from Leo Laporte.
Well, what a surprise.
Saying data brokers are the cockroaches of the internet.
They are. You can't kill them.
Yes.
Until, you know, God willing, you won't need Delete Me someday. Congress will pass a law.
When?
Protecting your, yeah, right, exactly.
I mean, this is what
Sure.
they should be doing instead of the TikTok ban.
Okay, that is exactly right. And that's my whole problem. And I hate to say it, I agree with RFK. This is because it's a Chinese company. It's easy.
Someone's going to quote you out of context.
Yeah, somebody other than him has said reasonable things
I have
about
said
this.
that.
Yes,
I have said
yes.
that. I agree with myself.
He's quoting you on one of his good days.
It is absolutely theater instead of real privacy action, because they don't, and it's my opinion, they don't want to take real privacy action because every time they threaten this law, and by the way, Marsha Blackburn has a bill. She's by the way thwarted many a bill in her committee, but in this case she's got a bill. But I think is that her name, Marsha? From Washington State. Yeah.
Oh,
No.
Cantwell.
Yeah.
Maria Cantwell.
Yeah.
Marsha Blackburn. I'm sorry. That's a big difference.
Yeah,
Maria Cantwell, who, by the way, came from the tech industry. She was at Real Audio. So she knows a little bit about stealing personal information. So they had a horrible privacy breach back in the day. Anyway, Maria Cantwell has finally proposed something, but I think every time they come up with something, our NSA and FBI and CIA and other law enforcement and intelligence agencies come to her and whisper, hey, we use that data. It'd be really unfortunate if we couldn't have access to it anymore. This is a valuable resource for us. They do the work we don't have to do.
Well, then you get Senator Wyden from
Ron
Oregon.
Wyden's right on.
He's like, I'm not having it.
But
He's
he can't
upset
do it
about
alone.
the FISA expansion. But Cantwell has, I think, vetoed decent bills.
Yes.
Now she's proposed one, which I haven't studied the details of it. I think this is a bill. I think it's the ARPA or something like that.
Yeah,
and I
it's
think
some acronym.
I think Mike Masnick likes it or thinks it's at least on the right path. I
Here's
think it's
my
got a couple
problem
of
with it.
things, but
And the reason I think she's promoting it is it supersedes all state bills.
But that's actually the bit that I like. That's not my problem with it.
Okay.
Because one of the problems we have right now is, it's not to say that there's not a policy problem with privacy, but we have an interstate economy that the internet is, and it goes between jurisdictions. And if every jurisdiction can have its own rules of the road, it is very difficult to do business. This is why Congress has the power to regulate interstate commerce, because you have a problem when every state can do it.
If Congress
locally.
fails to do it, I think it's appropriate for California, Illinois, Maine to do it in the absence of effective federal legislation. Now, if her legislation is effective and overrides our bills, fine. But my suspicion is that she's doing this in order to get rid of those laws and will provide ample loopholes for continued privacy.
I don't know.
invasion.
I think it's a tougher policy nut than the advocates are necessarily saying it is.
Good. Well,
Because
you know
there
better.
are
You know better.
intentions,
I'll
but
defer to you.
and you could be right. I don't think you're
It's
right
the
in
Americans
this
and
instance.
Privacy
but
Rights Act.
yes, you're right that somebody could produce a watered down bill to get rid of something substantive, and because it's coming out of Congress, it's going to wipe out anything good. But I think we've got a problem right now. I think it's a building problem because every state is doing stuff and they're not doing it in coordination with each other.
Right.
And not to advocate for this, but one other possibility is one of the problems we have is all the states are doing things differently. There are certain concepts of like model laws where sort of some very smart legal thinkers will come together and sort of propose what an ideal model law would look like in a certain policy context. And then that gets promulgated and then states end up adopting it. And if they adopt it consistently with the model law, you have each jurisdiction talking about it, but at least you have some more uniformity and it makes it a lot easier for businesses to cope because they're not dealing with something different.
And I'm
every
sympathetic.
time.
I understand that. Yeah. I just hope that it doesn't get watered down and then abrogate all the state laws.
Well, I'm not happy about the California one. I've been extremely critical about it, not just in terms of some of its of the provisions in it, but we can't fix it. These things came in via the later one came in via a ballot proposition, and ballot propositions. Like, if they're bad policy, somebody's got to have to spend the millions of dollars to get the signatures and put it back on a ballot and advertise to get people to vote it down. Bad policy goes on the books via this mechanism, and you can't get rid of it even if you need to, even if it's not good policy. Whereas the CPRA, its predecessor, was going to come in by ballot, which then put a gun to the legislature's head, so they came up with, okay, fine, what will it take for you to drop your ballot proposition? They came up with something which I think had issues, but okay, they came up with something just to get, because at least the thing, when it goes on the books from the legislature, they can fix it. So they did that, and then the guy came out with another ballot proposition anyway, which overruled it, and now we're stuck with that ballot proposition too. And this is no way to run a railroad. So, like, even if it came out with a perfect bill, this is not a good way to legislate because it takes away. Legislation should be able to reflect a nuanced policy approach, and you can't do that by these mechanisms to do it. So yeah, I'd gladly have Congress dump that, even if Congress watered down something good, because I think we kind of need to start over. That's bad to have on the books in this way.
And I'm
So if I
go ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I
go
would
first,
love
then I'll
for
go.
you and Mike to really do a deep dive on this and tell us, is this a good bill or not? And I'll get right behind it if it is.
He's written one, but I haven't studied. I don't know if I share his opinion, but I think he's put out a Tech post
And
on this.
he believes it's a good bill.
Or at least let me frame it as on the right track. I think
Right.
there's things he thought had enough promise and enough things that didn't alarm him too terribly. But he's usually very specific in his write-ups about what he likes and what he doesn't like. But I don't think his attitude is rule it. My reflex is this is probably going to be terrible. His reflex, having actually read it, was maybe not. Maybe this is not so awful, or we have to fix it, but this is a starting point that might be usable.
I'm
So I
not
want a second-
encouraged by the headline of his article. Any privacy law is going to require some compromise. But I think, I'll read this, and I missed this somehow.
I should read it too.
Yeah, the bill is massive.
Cathy,
he says. Go ahead.
I just want to second Cathy's spirit, what she says. So I was just in Sacramento. The Chamber of Commerce.
Very important. You were arguing against this terrible bill about
California Journalism Preservation
Act. Yes.
And so I've never done this stuff. I've never done policy. As a journalist, of course, I wasn't supposed to have opinions, but of course I do because I'm me. And testifying before the Senate was a first experience for me in Washington. And then the Chamber of Commerce brought me out to talk to legislators, legislative aides about this bill. And I wrote a 41-page paper investigating the weaknesses in it, the history of copyright, the history of consolidation of news, and proposing a bunch of alternative views because it's a link tax. It's dangerous to the internet. It will support bad media. It supports hedge funds. I really don't like it. So they were supposed to set up appointments for me. I got one appointment with one very young aide, and I thought that was it. So then they put me together with an wonderful old-time lobbyist, and just to go door to door around the Judiciary Committee where the bill's going to be. And just go walk in the door and say, I have a paper here, and I'm a journalism professor, about 886. Can I talk to somebody? And the person who's handling that for the legislator comes out, and we spend 15 minutes, and I get to talk about what my spiel is. And then we go out and sit in the lobby, because that's what lobbyists do.
Oh,
sit
wow.
in the lobby,
That's great.
Right?
Wow.
And next. And I talked to the counsel for the Judiciary Committee, who was really up on this and very smart about it. I went to the assembly person who wrote the bill, Buffy Wicks, and knocked on the door. And I'd already written this paper as very critical legislation. So I want to talk to somebody who's about the guy who answered the door said, well, I'm the one who's working on that. I said, well, I've written about this. He said, yeah, I heard. But,
that's not a good start.
That was all right. We had a great conversation. Right? We opened the door of communication. So my point is, and I'm seeing this right now in New York. New York already passed really stupid legislation that gives tax credits for employed, not just journalists, but anyone employed by a news company, but only print and broadcast, not digital, not for profit. Incredibly stupid. It's already passed.
Insane.
And if we'd known about this, if we'd had the opportunity at the time, a bunch of us could have gone to Albany and said, please no, and here's some alternatives, and to be constructive. And that's the way democracy is supposed to work. So my only point here is that as much as I went into this kind of dreading the experience, I found it fascinating that these doors are open and you can go in and you can have a conversation with people. Whether it'll have any impact or not, I have no idea.
Even if you're not a constituent, which is interesting. They want the information, which is great.
It's wild to me that there's just someone sitting around in all these offices that's just available for a man to wander in and give his opinion.
Those are staffers,
I feel for them because whenever time the door opens, they got to think, okay, who is it now?
That's my nightmare. I'd never be able to get anything done if people were just coming in to talk to me physically.
There are a number of great scenes in The West Wing that are exactly that, with staffers for President Bartlett who, okay, it's your turn. So let me tell you what the EFF says about the American Privacy Rights Act, because they don't like it. Mike says, look, it may be the best thing we're going to get. We're going to have to make some compromises. But the EFS says, and I think this is a problem, it's concerned that a new federal bill would freeze consumer data privacy protections in place, not only by preempting existing state laws, but by preventing states from creating stronger protections in the future. They say
How is that? How would that be?
It's part of it's a provision. They say federal law should be the floor on which states can build, and I think we'd all agree.
I have to disagree very strongly with the EFF here, and I've disagreed with them on their privacy legislation advocacy in general. Not to say that there's no policy need for something, but they came out supporting the first one, the CPPA, and I thought that was nuts. Okay. I mean, EFF has experience from the copyright standpoint of what happens when you get the wrong legislation in your policy area. It creates a ton of needless overhead churn, and individual innovators, the smaller people, get just obliterated by it. And it should know better that if it's going to protect innovation, it needs to make sure that it is not bad policy doing it, because bad policy, even when there's a policy value that's good baked into it, is no good. It ends up being really chilling and destructive. And I think they were wrong to take sides on the specific bills that have come out. And I think it's the wrong attitude to say that all these states are individually going to be able to do better, because they're doing worse and they're doing damage.
Yes.
And I think EFF is not recognizing the reason to have federal preemption is to stop the states from doing all this damage. And you're getting bills that are getting passed as Jeff was saying, like middle of the night, tacked onto other bills without adequate consideration, and or via the ballot measures, or via ballot measures plus blackmail. And you're not producing good policy. And I think the point of the federal preemption is if we're going to have a screwed up legislative forum, let's just have one. Right now we've got 50 plus. That's a problem.
Amen, Counselor. Amen.
There's a lot
federal
to
preemption
go ahead.
Is easier just for companies to deal with and citizens to deal with because you know what one law is. In a national internet and an international internet, it's really, really hard to deal with unlimited number of laws.
Europe can't understand us. They consider the United States of America one country, and they have no concept of how they're going to manage to do business with 50 states where they don't even have, they may have not heard of Missouri or what are they going to do in Vermont? They really want, could you please just, whatever you want, just tell us what the one thing is that you want us to do. And the only reason Europe is not completely freaked out in the privacy space is because they're at least used to the GDPR. But even California's CPPA and CPRA are different from the GDPR, partly because they have to be, because we've got First Amendment protections, and they're struggling to cope. And also, if you have all these 50 states, you're going to disenfranchise some of the states too, because you're going to have, California will be able to set the rules of the road because it's a big state that companies want to be able to do business with because they can't afford to turn off. But they could probably be able to afford to turn off Vermont if they can't afford to do business based on that legislation.
EFF compares it to HIPAA, which is a federal law that establishes a baseline of privacy and health. But many states have stronger protections even than HIPAA. They go on to enhance HIPAA. Now, maybe that's different because
those are innately local. Your doctor is innately local.
Yeah.
Your internet is not innately local.
Yeah, and HIPAA isn't even really a privacy law. Like the P's in HIPAA aren't privacy; they're portability.
Portability.
What are they? Oh, right.
Health Information Portability and Accountability Act.
Well, with CJPA, the journalism one too. One thing I point out in my paper is that copyright law specifically says that it preempts.
Right.
And thus, these attempts to come up with to expand copyright for the sake of newspaper publishers violate copyright law and will end up, I think, in court and losing.
Yeah, and to be clear, the Copyright Office did that big study of should we do a link tax scheme, and people filed comments. I filed comments. I think I talked to everybody here about the comments that I had done, and the Copyright Office looked at it and then said, yeah, I don't think that's the job for copyright law. That's not something consistent with what we've historically done. It would create a new monopoly right, and there'd be dragons here. So even they said, we like to kind of have stuff to do, but we don't really need that on our to-do list, and they passed on it, which is kind of why the states are trying to pick up on it. But again, the impact of doing that, if California has a link tax, then they're setting national policy because people will end up adjusting to what's going on in California because California is so hard to say no to because it's so gigantic.
All right. Well,
we would like privacy legislation in this country.
We would.
A book
and
about this.
What I don't want is privacy legislation that rolls back stronger state privacy legislation.
But those should be models for that discussion. But if we had that, then we wouldn't be kicking TikTok out on the basis of privacy.
Right. If any of this stuff was effective, we wouldn't be having this problem. And so California was a pioneer in attempting to confront the policy problem. Fine, let's applaud California. But I think that's really where the extent of the compliments go, because the policy itself is very flawed, which has a number of collateral consequences to it that aren't good. And it may not, they're not good in terms of they cause harm, and they might also be not good because they also don't solve the problem as perfectly as we need it to be solved anyway. We're on our way, but I don't think we've decided who's driving yet, so this is part of our problem.
Here's what EFF writes. ADPPA's preemption doesn't only steamroll state data privacy statutes such as California's Consumer Privacy Right Act. It also apparently rolls back protections in a number of other areas, even rights to privacy that states have seen fit to enshrine in their state constitutions. Based on the text of the current bill, endangered state privacy rules include those for biometric information, genetic data, broadband privacy, and data brokers. The preemption clause of the bill also means there can be no forward progress at the state level on many key consumer issues. I think that has to be solved. I really do.
I think a lot of what they're saying is that's the benefit. That's not the problem.
It's the benefit from private industry's point of view. Because now we don't have a patchwork of laws. It's not a benefit from the individual's point of view because my stronger protections in California or Illinois are being abrogated by weaker federal protections, and we cannot enhance them. So that, to me, is not a net gain for the individual. Sure, great for the companies, but not a great individual for the individuals.
I think we also have to think about it's not just the companies as big, well-funded, large things that can hire enough lawyers to deal with whatever. There are some thresholds where these things kick in, but those thresholds are very inapt, and they end up catching a lot of smaller innovation and a lot of smaller entities and a lot of much more reasonable, I just kind of wanted to build a website in my backyard type thing where all of a sudden, yeah, your good idea that you wanted to go build, the communication you wanted to go put forth, you're chilled from it because you're not going to be able to comply with these things either. And you're going to potentially be subject to 50 states trying to govern what you're doing in your garage while you're still small. One other thing I want to throw in is I was complaining about legislation via ballot measures, and I have an old Tech Dirt post called "What Soda Taxes and Lead Paint Have to Do with Internet Regulation," and that's one where I was kicking around the issues with the ballot measures, where once one gets on the books, you can't fix it unless you have another ballot measure, and those take blank checks to be able to
Yeah, this is a problem unique to California and some other states. It's not generally a problem, but here in California, it's a massive problem. And that's why the lead paint problem, because of Prop 65.
Prop 13.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Prop
think the
13,
downfall
the
of
property
California
tax.
came from Jarvis scan.
Yeah.
Jarvis, no relation.
It's the problem is that it's, in a nutshell, very easy to get these ballots on the books. They're often misleadingly written, so that voters aren't really necessarily expressing a real opinion. They're saying, well, that makes sense to me. And then it's very difficult to get them off the books.
I just don't like that, particularly when they're statutory, where it's not like, oh, well, the people decided to propose a law and get it on the books. If that was all it was, fine, but they're written in a way where the Republican form of our representation, which in theory has more time to study things and think about policy, whether they do or not is an open question, but they can't because they can't touch this policy. We're stuck with it. It's there unless the people directly change their minds, but the only way they're doing that is via another ballot measure, and those are massively expensive.
California is structured in a very weird way. We have a very weak governor. We have a very weak legislature that's undermined by these ballot propositions. It feels democratic. It's actually brought me to a discussion that I've been very interested in having, but reluctant to have. This is the only show I would even dare have it on, which is true democracy failing us, especially in an era of social media and very powerful tools to persuade people. It feels as if, we're supposed to be a republic, and I guess we have an electoral college and we have a representative democracy, but wherever the people get to vote, it seems like we're at grave risk sometimes. Now, I'm not advocating for an alternative. I don't know if there is no alternative, but a strongman rule, I guess. But
that's how it's been. It's how it's been manipulated.
That's my problem, exactly.
So, but I mean, I agree, obviously, the manipulation is a concern, but there's also the point of, in a world in which the internet or something didn't exist, in which people didn't have access to all this information all the time, we would have a populace that is much less informed and is making much worse decisions, or much more simplistic and easily influenceable decisions. I don't think that it's like our current technological system that is failing democracy. I think that it's the setup of our current democracy that might be resulting in some of the issues.
Yeah, maybe we need to beat the drum for education, voter education. You're right. I think that part of the problem is an electorate that isn't paying attention, that is disengaged, is easily swayed. If we can turn that around and make the Democratic voter a better informed voter, I'd be all in favor of it. Although history doesn't do us any favors in this regard.
But we had problems either way. When we had just a couple of gatekeepers, there were some benefits to that. Like, it's sort of interesting how the entire country could pay attention to the same things at the same time. Like, Walter Cronkite could educate and inform pretty effectively.
But it's not that way
And
anymore.
now we're very splintered.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we had gatekeepers, and that's all you could get through.
That gives Walter a lot more power, unelected power, right?
I mean, he was a product of evolution. Then we continued to evolve. Now, some of the things is, I think game theory is really important to any of these systems we're thinking about, because anytime you set up a system, there's power in the system, and you have to figure out if the power is going to aggregate in some places where perhaps that's not good. And I think we're looking at systems where a lot of power has aggregated in places that are unhealthy. And I think that's true whether we're talking our media environment. I think it's whether we're talking about our democratic institutions. But one of the courses I took in law school, which I think everybody should take, I think it should be in every law school, I think it should be in every school, was constitutional theory. Because how you set up your democracy, it's not one rule to do it. Like the U.S. Constitution, I'm a big fan of, but it's got a couple of they could have done a little bit better here, been more, they're very specific in some spaces, they're not specific at all in others. You have language that does it scale to modern uses? There's no guidance within the document to know. I don't want to throw it out. I think there's a lot of mechanisms that are really good, but is also one that may be more appropriate for certain types of bodies that you're governing than other types. What do you do when you have very similar populations? What do you do when you have very different populations that are competing? And it's all game theory. How do you set this up so that the power is shared in reasonable ways and doesn't accidentally, clump up in certain spots where all of a sudden you get inequities? These problems are solvable, but I'm not entirely sure we're attuned to solving them. And I think we get so depressed by the externalities that are bad that we just throw up our hands, think, well, if what we have is bad, we should get rid of it and start over. But that's not a great solution either.
Jeff, this is your bailiwick. I mean, this is what you talk about all the time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Leo, I just put a story in the rundown because I think you're gonna gulp when you see it, because there's a far right legislators in Washington State are saying that are coming right out and saying they're against democracy. By the way, one history lesson that I had, I didn't realize that the Nazis, I thought that they were arguing in favor of their kind of democracy. No, they were against democracy. They called democracy a bad.
They never had a majority rule. They were always a plurality.
So these legislators in Washington said, and I quote, "We do not want to be a democracy." They say that they should have direct. The Democratic Party platform calls for direct election of the president. They are saying that's wrong, as they want, of course, the Electoral College because that supports certain states. They don't want popular election of senators. So it's an unfortunate way this is going. I think the question is, how do we prevent it from being manipulated in malign ways?
Yeah, we've survived.
And that's not the fault of the populace. It's the fault of, I think, look what's happening in media right now. Look what's just taken over the Washington Post. Look what's taken over CNN.
Yeah, what's going on there? They have a British editor is going to take over after November 5th.
And turn the newsroom into 3 separate newsrooms.
One of them to pander to people who don't read the news. Will Lewis, who I know from the Telegraph and from, he's implicated in cleaning up after News Corp phone hacking. He's now the president of the Washington Post. He's bringing in somebody from the Telegraph, which is an execrable newspaper right now. It used to be okay for a right-wing newspaper. It's now absolutely awful. Will be the next editor. A Wall Street Journal editor who's praised, but he's Wall Street Journal Murdoch is going to do it. That goes to the right wing. NPR is scared. New York Times PitchBot today had a great compilation of all this stuff. Hold on, it's right here. Twitter is owned by a fascist. The publisher of the New York Times is openly anti-Biden. CNN is doing Trump town halls. And the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal are run by Murdoch cronies. Add in the fact that Daily Beast just got taken over by a New York Post editor.
Yep.
This is, so media, the Supreme Court, the Congress, the media as institutions have been, have had the rugs pulled off from underneath them.
But this is why
I write about this in Gutenberg parenthesis, where the paradox is conservatives used to want to conserve and protect institutions. Now they want to tear them down, and liberal progressives are in the odd position of not wanting to change institutions, but needing to protect those institutions. Everything is topsy-turvy.
But this is why I push back against the privacy law morass, because I think one of the keys here is everything that's been around for a while is creaking and cracking and collapsing under the weight that poor leadership is putting on them. So we better get stuff that's new and that can grow organically and actually give us the media ecosystem that we need. They're not going to be able to launch and survive if they have to navigate a regulatory thicket. Their expression is going to get chilled. And, it's not to say I don't want to preserve privacy values, but I don't think we benefit by preserving policy values at the expense of the innovation and expression we also desperately need and possibly need first, and then we can kind of circle back and make sure other things are protected. But I also think that there's an awful lot of low-hanging fruit that we could protect in the privacy realm. Start there, build in some protection, and then see where we need to expand. But I worry about this thicket of reactionary state-based policies that are like, I see a problem, so therefore we're going to do X, with no real consideration of what the consequences are of doing X and what it's going to encourage and what it's going to chill.
Just out of curiosity, what do you think the reason is for this rightward move from these historically left-leaning publications? Is it economic? Is it groupthink?
I think it's a few things. It's I think it is the ideology in some cases of owners. And I spoke with a well-known person, I won't say who, at MSNBC once, about a controversial thing that was done there, and this person said, Jeff, remember, it's a Republican company.
Yeah, I think we forget often that our media is controlled by giant corporations.
There's also an interesting thing, Leo, is that out of the era of mass media and the belief that we serve everybody in newspapers, in Marty Baron's book about his time at the Washington Post, I think Marty was a brilliant editor. Didn't agree with everything he did, but I think he was a brilliant editor of the Post. I think it was much better than it is now. He lamented that a poll found out that 80% of Washington Post readers were liberal. The reflex was, well, I have to get more conservatives, both for business purposes and for
to balance
we serve everybody purposes.
Yeah.
Instead, what he should have said is, I know who my readers are. I want to serve them well. I want to tell them how to win arguments.
Do you think I'm
with
happy?
Facts.
Do you think I'm happy that 95% of our audience is male? I'd love to have more women listen to these shows. But am I going to put more girly stuff on? Am I going to dress in pink?
Leo.
I mean,
Leo.
Leo.
I mean, I would argue that
you're banned from Twitter.
Benito, get the bat. Get the bat, Benito.
I would argue, Paris and I are exuding girliness.
We're exuding feminine energy.
We are
now.
girls, and this is how we exist.
In fact, that my actual answer is no. Let's just get as smart as we possibly can, and who cares what the gender?
Well, if you're going to actually be smart about things,
Well, we have as many women on as we can.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, the weaponry you're holding is certainly inducing the participation.
Just call me Joe Bob. It's no big deal. All right, I'm going to have to take a little break here on that note. It's a good thing that I have the bat over here, not you. Cathy Gellis, it's great to have her. She is an attorney at law, great at arguing, and always informative. I'm really glad we can have you on to talk about that, Maria Cantwell Bill, actually. It's an interesting conundrum. Jeff Jarvis, professor of journalism, soon to find a new home. Meanwhile, check him out at Gutenberg.com. His new book, The Web We Weave, is awesome. Did you get your galley, Paris Martineau?
I need to respond to the email. I've had a busy week.
Okay. She's working on a story.
Jeff very nicely.
Promptly.
She wants the
at like
print edition.
7:30 in the morning.
That's funny. I'm more and more. I'm reading on e-readers and less. I put it on an e-reader. I had the PDF.
I love a book.
Put it on my Kobo. I do too. Let's take a little break. We're going to come back. I never did get to the story that I was going to get to. TikTok.
We haven't gotten to any single story in the rundown yet, which has been a great conversation.
This is why. But I've wanted to have this conversation about democracy for a long time. I mean, and when it's interesting that you say. You talk about these established institutions kind of falling apart. Are they as important these days as, let's say, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and the social
Some
networks?
need to be preserved. Some need to be protected. Some need to be updated. Some need to be replaced.
But we need them all.
That's the last chapter.
Right? We need them all.
Some version of them all.
Yeah.
Editing and publishing was created for the quality in print. We need different institutions now. Libraries need to be preserved and protected, and each institution in its way. But we need democratic institutions, and we need institutions of information for society. Yes. They may not be the current ones.
We also need to find a way to get people voting and get them engaged. I don't fear for democracy if we get everybody voting. I feel like that's...
You see that... if we had the Australian mechanism where everybody is required to vote, I'm not so sure that'd be great.
No,
for
I don't like
democracy.
that
If you
so
don't
much.
care enough, then good. Stay away.
I guess you're right. If you don't know
I
the
don't know.
answer,
I don't know.
I do that when they put 12 judges on the ballot, running unopposed. I don't know who the hell they are or whether
Hey, Leo, you know what's the move? Because I'll often
What's
go
the
in
move?
there, and here in Brooklyn, they've got like 20 judges on
Yeah.
there. You can just pull out your phone and Google every single one.
No.
No one's stopping you.
You know what I do? I don't vote, and I figure if somebody knows better, they should vote, and their vote should count more because mine would be ignorant.
Unless that is the Federalist Society voting.
Yeah, I mean, I take the time to do the research of who's
I do the
on there.
research
Like,
when I
I'll
can.
read.
I
I'll
do
read
the research
packets.
beforehand.
I mean, it takes a long time for a major election to read all the paperwork that comes, but it becomes like the task of.
Well, then that's why I'm not voting, because I want somebody like you to your vote to
But
count.
there aren't
more.
Yeah,
that
but I'm
many
getting
people like you've got to be one of those
Yeah,
people, Leo.
yeah.
And you should do
Leo,
the work
it's
that
not-
Kathy's talking
it's-
about in advance.
At
and
least
if it's
I'm
something
voting
you
on some of
encounter-
it.
But it's not going to.
Google
Here's what you need to do instead. So I'll take there's people like me who will take the time, people whose opinion that you trust.
Yes.
So we will
Ask them.
ask us and
Yeah.
then vote for that, because I'm getting canceled out by people who, want some terrible things and they're going
Right.
to vote for the other guy. So I don't want to waste your vote, but if you don't have the resources, attention span, time, whatever.
Or knowledge. Often it's knowledge.
Or knowledge to do your own inquiry, ask somebody you trust. Now you're still going to have to do some research, because I will tend to give no's on nearly every ballot measure, because for the same reason I wrote that blog post that I think the ballot measures are so, even if they're good ideas, I think it's a terrible way to legislate. There are people whose opinions you'd respect who will actually try to do a substantive evaluation of whether they think that particular ballot measure is good. Sometimes they'll base it just on the policy type of like, well, I think it's a good idea to try to solve this problem. Some of them will do it based on the particulars, and some of them will do it.
Lisa's has a policy of vetoing all bond measures and tax increases. I have a policy of saying, yes, spend the money. That's good. If school's great, spend it. Go ahead. More bonds.
Yeah.
So we cancel each other out, unfortunately.
Okay.
I got Paris. I have this vision now of the entirety of Brooklyn standing behind your voting booth,
Watching.
growling that you've been in there for 40
there's
minutes.
a good amount of voting booths there. People are moving in.
Oh, so
and
you do
out.
this in the booth?
Usually,
She does it in the booth.
I will say that's not what I plan. I do my research in advance, but sometimes you get there and
Sometimes-
you're like, oh, I didn't realize there would be these 12 extra judges, and then you just do a quick Google.
Don't they give you
Yeah, we get sample
we
ballots.
get sample
Yeah.
ballots that has the whole
In fact,
thing.
everybody in California gets a ballot.
Yeah, well,
ahead
now
of
we get
time.
the mail-in ones,
Yeah.
but they'll also send you a sample ballot, so you basically can do your research, fill in your sample ballot, and then when you are now introduced to your regular ballot, you just copy over the bubbles, like the actual voting.
Can't you make up your mind?
Get out of there.
Wait here.
We got some people waiting to vote here. This is our new sticker, thanks to Joe, our sticker maker. We need to add more girly things, says Chief Bad Idea Officer Leo Laporte.
That is a real outfit, Kathy. He wore for a significant portion of the show, not long ago.
The
is not
the
a
Monopoly
deepfake.
Man top hat, monocle. And,
Are you sure
and
that you're not the
mustache.
one voting against all
I
the
vote
taxes
against
in that
democracy
outfit?
in all its forms. Our show today. I don't know why I sounded like
Boy,
FDR when I did that.
Really inducing people to come to Petaluma.
No, come to Petaluma. We will treat you like kings, and our trains run on time. Our show today brought to you by Collide. This is a favorite company of mine. I really like it because they're user-focused. It's a security company for companies that use Okta that make sure that everybody who comes into your business, yes, Okta assures they are who they say they are, but that the devices they're carrying are also secure. That is great. And they do it by enlisting the help of users. Did you hear the latest news? Collide was just acquired by 1Password. And that's very good news because both companies lead the industry in creating security solutions that put users first. For over a year, Collide Device Trust has helped companies with Okta ensure that only known and secure devices can access their data. That's still what they're doing. They're just doing it with the resources and support of the great 1Password. So if you have Okta, you've been meaning to check out Collide, there has never been a better time. Collide's easy to get going with. It comes with a library of pre-built device posture checks, and you can write your own custom checks for just about anything you can think of. Plus, you can use Collide on devices without MDM, like your Linux fleet, your contractor devices, and every BYOD phone and laptop in your company. Now that Collide is part of 1Password, it's only going to get better. Check it out at Collide, KOLIDE.com/twig to learn more and watch a demo today. That's Collide, KOLIDE, Collide.com/twig. Please use /twig because then they know you saw it here on this show. Collide.com/twig with a G. All right, I have failed you. I admit it. I am not the man I thought I was. So
finally, he's saying something about it.
Please, Paris, pick a nice girly subject for us to talk about.
Something frilly, Paris.
He strategically put the bat on the other side of the table so I can't reach it.
Here's something, line 106.
106! Okay.
Bingo.
The internet's final frontier. Remote Amazon tribes.
Oh, isn't this
sad? It's a really interesting New York Times story about how these Amazonian tribes got internet thanks to Starlink, and now they're dealing with all the problems that having internet comes with.
I rest my
the
case.
Benefits, Paris.
This
No,
wonderful,
I thought it was good. I don't
democratic,
think it's sad, Leo.
beautifully run tribe that has survived without contact with the West for hundreds and hundreds of years gets Starlink and is descending into addiction.
They all say, please.
That's projection.
Okay, no, here. Sami Marabu, 73, sitting on the dirt floor of her village's Maloka, a 50-foot-tall hut where the Marubo sleep, eat, and cook together, says, when it arrived, everyone was happy. The internet brought clear benefits like video chats with faraway loved ones and calls for help in emergency. She says, but now things have gotten worse. Young people have gotten lazy because of the internet, she said.
Look.
They're learning the ways of white people.
Look, all these people staring at their phones.
But please don't take our internet away.
Oh, yeah, right.
Actually, didn't we see this movie? Isn't this basically The Gods Must Be Crazy?
It kind of is, yeah.
Except
that
it's
was
not
about a Coca-Cola bottle
they
was thrown out
introduced
of an
a
airplane.
hard substance, and the culture was grappling with what to do with a truly hard substance. And so then the rest of the movie is the guy's got to chuck away the hard substance. But here we gave him a different hard substance. We
gave him the internet,
baby. We gave him the internet.
We gave him Elon.
But it's the same principle. The culture was tooling along, and then we gave them a variable they weren't used to, and there's issues with confronting what do you do with something new.
It's interesting because when Starlink first came along, that was actually what I thought was going to be the biggest benefit, was bringing the internet to pockets of the world that are just completely without the internet. And in fact, that's what's happened. The Times says Starlink's most transformative effect is in areas once largely out of internet's reach, like the Amazon. There are now 66,000 active contracts in the Brazilian Amazon, touching 93% of the region's legal municipalities.
They get to call for medical help.
It's a really interesting story. The Times writes, the internet arrived on the backs of men. They trudged miles through the forest, barefoot or in flip-flops, carrying 2 antennas each. Just behind were some people documenting the journey. In the villages, they nailed the antennas to the tops of poles and plugged them into solar panels.
By the way, I got to point out, Starlink requires unimpeded view of the sky. So notice they've chopped down most of the rainforest for 100 feet in every direction. Okay, continue on.
Leaders realized they needed limits. The internet would be switched on for only 2 hours in the morning, 5 hours in the evening, and all day Saturday. During those windows, many Maribo are crouched over or reclined in hammocks on their phones. They spend lots of time on WhatsApp. There, leaders coordinate between villages and alert the authorities to health issues and environmental destruction. Maribo teachers share lessons with students in different villages, and everyone is in much closer contact with faraway family and friends.
This is why I wrote a thank you note to the internet in my book. We've got to remember the good stuff too. Yes, it gets misused. Yes, people do wrong things. All that's true. But it brings benefits to people, and who are we to say they shouldn't have them?
Okay, so I didn't read the article. I just read the blurb that said addiction, and
Well, that's the New York Times projecting their fears on the Amazonian
okay, because
tribe.
there's no. I mean, I don't know how the internet would promote addiction anyway. Maybe addiction to the internet.
Kaipa Maribo, a father of 3, said he was happy the internet was helping educate his children, but he was also concerned about the first-person shooter video games his 2 sons play. I'm worried they're suddenly going to want to mimic them, he said. He tried to delete the games, but he believed his sons had other hidden apps. I mean, it's always going to happen.
Teens
Kids are
are
going to hide
teens.
things from their parents. Teens are going to be teens.
Even if you
This
live
is-
in the same room together.
This is actually an age-old conversation about contact with these remote tribes in the Amazon and elsewhere. The people who are contacting them, this is the old white man's burden, believe they're bringing them all the benefits of civilization, medicine and information and sex and pornography. I don't know what they're bringing them, but they're bringing them the benefits of actually usually Christianity, right? But often it is not to the benefit of these remote tribes. It's an interesting conundrum. In Star Trek, you might know, they have a philosophy of not having any contact with
The Prime
indigenous.
Directive.
The Prime Directive.
Which they break every time.
They break it every time.
Yeah,
and
every time.
And it's just a TV show, I understand. But do we have a Prime Directive, or is it just it's the way of the world? We're just going to bring civilization to everybody we can find, with all its pros and cons. Look, that's what they're doing. Internet is just
Well, it seems like the people who brought this were tribal people who had gone and, I believe,
it's
tribal members
also
from
this
the tribe
this
that had
woman who
gone to work
donated
and
25.
yeah, but that woman got involved because a tribal man who'd gone to the city, I believe, for work, wanted to get this for his community and saw like a presentation this woman had done and then pleaded with her to finance it. She did. I mean, I think if communities want technology, they should be allowed to have it.
You know what
but
happens?
I do think it was kind of an interesting study on their speed running the social media era.
Oh, it is. Look, it's interesting in abstract. I just don't know if it's a good thing for these people or not. You know what happens to the Super Bowl loser T-shirts? You know, when they have a Super Bowl or a World Series, they print T-shirts for both teams as the winner. But inevitably only one team wins, so the other T-shirts are useless. They send them to these tribes in Africa and other areas.
It's a problem.
Is it a good thing because they have T-shirts now, or is it just capitalism gone wild?
Well, they don't. In that case, they don't need any more crappy quality T-shirts. It's been. I mean, I believe. I'm not sure which specific locales the Super Bowl T-shirts are sent to, but there's a huge problem where because of the high consumption of like mass-produced clothing goods in the Shein era, all of these communities are now overwhelmed with bushels and bushels of clothing.
The other thing is, like in the instance with the shirts, it works with things like soaps. Oh, let's send people who live in developing communities soap because surely they need soap.
Because they're so dirty.
Well, soap is something that is a really easy home-based business for women in those developing areas, and they can't go into business making money selling soap because there's all this free soap, so it's killing their business. So that's one less job accessible and one less. It tends to keep the developing communities from developing their own economies, producing their own goods, because we're just giving them all the stuff we think they need, but then they can't have a burgeoning economy, and so everybody remains in poverty. So a lot of this is like, it's something that may, it's policy. It may seem like a good idea, but you really have to think through the math of, if we start doing this, what are the changes that it's going to end up causing, and are they going to leave the people we're trying to help in a better position than if we did nothing at all?
Misery loves company, and as long as we're suffering from overexposure to modern civilization, maybe they ought to too. Why should they be exempt? I don't know how to feel about this. I don't want to also do something that's very common, which is to kind of romanticize traditional life primitive life.
Well, who are you to choose either way?
Right. It's their choice.
Shouldn't people have a choice. Yeah.
Yes.
And they've chosen the internet.
Have they?
That's good.
Have they? One guy went to this woman and said, please give us the internet. I don't know. Is that all of them? I don't know.
I mean, people can choose whether or not they want a phone and connect to the internet. They vote, I think, as a community.
That's true. They
on
could
what
just say-
hours the internet is happening. Someone could take a hammer, kind of like what you got there, and smack the Starlink thing if they didn't like it that much.
Yeah.
Yep.
It seems like the
Luddites of the
problems
current
this
age.
society is having is a microcosm of what.
Well, it is for sure. I mean, that's
issues with
interesting, isn't it?
communication.
Yeah.
It's interests about young men having access to pornography. It's stuff that we as a society have had to deal with for decades and decades that is happening in a microcosm now.
Are you reading our local Petaluma newspapers? Is that how you found this
No,
story?
I saw this, but I saw this come across Twitter, and I saw a local Petaluma story, so I thought it was for you, Leo.
Well, we know
That
about it.
time, Rupert
Yeah.
Murdoch almost married a woman from Petaluma.
We were very excited
Local angle.
how close we came to having Rupert Murdoch be a local.
But he didn't
He declined
There
at the
goes the
last
neighborhood.
minute. Yeah, he's 93. She's 67. A Russian-born molecular biologist, Elena Zhukova, who lives in... oh, wait a minute. No, he married Zhukova, but before he married her,
Didn't
Anne
marry.
Leslie Smith had a ring on her finger. She is a 1975 graduate of Petaluma High School. We were all very
Somewhere
aware of
along
this.
the way, Smith became an evangelical Christian and an outspoken conspiracy theorist. Two sticking points, apparently, when it came to marrying the wealthiest scion of them all, Rupert Murdoch,
Yeah.
he says.
Yeah, we saw the headline, Rupert Murdoch's next wife is from Petaluma. And our hearts were broken when he dumped her and married somebody else. They were briefly engaged. I can't believe you found that. This isn't a new segment on the show that we're going to call the Paris Zone.
Trademark.
Trademark, I noticed. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know where to
Speaking-
start here.
How about the very online afterlife of Franz Kafka?
Wait a minute. He's been dead 100 years.
Yes, he's been dead 100 years, but yet the Czech writer is popping off with the teens on TikTok.
Oh, is that true? Are you seeing a lot of,
Yeah, on TikTok, a collection of objects sits atop a stack of books, a string of pearls, a diptyque candle, a Sylvian family's rabbit figure in a scallop-collared dress. A woman's hand brushes them aside. She pages the piles of books. We see My Year of Rest and Relaxation, The Bell Jar, and Franz Kafka's Metamorphosis.
Wow, that's wild. Actually,
This
he's
is a
regular
yeah.
answer on Jeopardy, so I think I blame Jeopardy for this. They're keeping him alive. This is Margarita
It's also
Mucha.
very funny because I feel like Soren Kierkegaard is also popping off on Twitter a bit. I recently got a collection of his works called The Diary of Soren Kierkegaard, and it is very fun. It really reads like a bunch of tweets. Like literally the first paragraph of it, I will put in the Discord right now, and it would frankly do well on Twitter. If we want to pull it up here.
Yes, I shall pull it up for you, and
And I'll read this.
You can do a
entry
dramatic reading of some Kierkegaard, ladies and gentlemen.
I have just returned from a party of which I was the life and soul. Witty banter flowed from my lips. Everyone laughed and admired me. But I came away. Indeed, that dash should be as long as the radii of the Earth's orbit, and then a very long M dash, wanting to shoot myself.
It's very Twitter.
It's so
It is
1836.
very Twitter.
Yeah.
It's so
You know?
Paris nihilist.
It is. So the teens really like nihilism. it seems.
It's hot all around. I put in the Discord Richard Ovenden, who's the brilliant head of Oxford's Bodleian Library, wearing a T-shirt we should all want. If you scroll up a little bit.
What is
Oh,
he?
that's good.
Is he a crab? What is? He's a bee. Oh,
No,
he's a cockroach
he's a
from
cockroach.
Metamorphosis. Okay, I get it.
Now, that's not him. If you scroll up, you'll see.
That's not him?
T-shirt. That's not him. You'll see just a little more.
There's a picture of him in a T-shirt.
Yeah, you'll see it. Just scroll, damn it. Scroll.
I'm scrolling.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
This is my human costume.
This is my human costume.
I'm really
a cockroach.
Cockroach. Okay. That is a very deep joke there.
To me, that sounds like a Men in Black reference. But
Oh, yeah. See, yeah, because one of the aliens
But it has Kafka implications, right?
Yes. All right, there you go. That's the Paris zone. Thank you for that visit.
I got 2 more articles.
Oh, there's more in the Paris zone? Keep going.
There's a lot.
It's a whole
One
zone.
is,
It's not a Paris hit. It's a zone. It's an entire
true.
area and way of thinking that
It's
will
a
process.
life.
It's a
There
lifestyle.
was a really interesting, I guess, press release issued by the Justice Department this week about the CFO of a media company, the Epoch Times, that he was essentially indicted for participating in a scheme to launder at least $67 million in fraud proceeds. And I thought it was funny because it kind of goes into what I think is the first very clear example of someone figuring out how to make money in the digital media industry.
Aha. So he's a paragon for us all.
They have a section called the money laundering scheme in the indictment, or a little brief there, that says, beginning in about early 2020, individuals affiliated with the media company began purchasing tens of thousands of prepaid debit cards below cost on a cryptocurrency platform. The prepaid debit cards were issued by different debit card companies and loaded with U.S. dollars that had been lawfully obtained through various funds. They were loaded with fraudulently procured unemployment insurance benefits obtained using stolen personal identification.
Oh.
And that is how the Epoch Times ended up making tens of millions of dollars. Perhaps a lesson for the media industry, because
now those
fraud. They gotta do more fraud.
I get that Epoch Times
Maybe?
in the email, in my mail sometimes. I see it. They cleverly position it on waiting room chairs. They go around and spread it. It was my understanding it was a Sun Myung Moon.
It was Mooney.
it's Falun Gong.
Oh, it's
right?
Falun
Is it
Gong.
Falun Gong or Mooney?
Maybe it's Falun Gong.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, it is very subtle propaganda. It looks very normal.
Yes, you're right.
It doesn't. It's not obviously propaganda, but it's worse.
Just like TikTok.
It's just like TikTok. It's Falun Gong, isn't it? It's not Mooney. It's Falun Gong.
Falun Gong. You're absolutely right. I was right.
So is Shen Yun, which is another interesting attempt by Falun Gong to kind of legitimize themselves.
I cannot imagine that show. Who would you not want to be stuck next to in an elevator as one of the endorsers at the end of that commercial? Do you get those commercials all the time?
No, we just see the billboard.
All over New York City is the commercials for Shen Yun.
Yeah, when there's a season and they come in and the commercials are nonstop and constant, then they have people saying, "My life changed. It was so wonderful. You must go watch it."
I believe there was a blog or something, maybe it was from the Outline or the Owl or something, where a blogger went just a bit to be like, what was it? And it was awful. It was like hours long, incredibly boring.
It was in the New Yorker.
Very low budget.
Yeah.
It was difficult.
Yeah. But you see all these
Paris
rave
thinks it was a
reviews.
blogger, and it was the New Yorker.
I think it was the New Yorker. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, but it was like the blogger. It was very much like that.
A blogger of some sort.
Falun
The
Gong.
New
It's
Yorker.
interesting because Falun Gong is banned in China. In fact, it's very actively banned in China. They are headquartered in New York, so maybe that's why you see so many ads of those. But they're very subtle at least in the Epoch Times, in their propaganda. And Shen Yun, I think, is very subtle. It seems more like anti-communist China propaganda. Here is the article you're talking about from 2019, Stepping into the Uncanny, Unsettling World of Shen Yun by Gia Tolentino. Does the ubiquitous dance troupe really present 5,000 years of civilization reborn? It's easy to fall for it. You see those ads, it looks really cool. It looks multicultural. It looks like a wonderful thing. And I'm not sure it's not a wonderful thing. It doesn't seem to be overt propaganda. But read this article because
it looks so
it looks painful,
my God.
To be honest. Shen Yun is Chinese for the beauty of divine beings dancing. All right, I guess is that it? Is that the Paris?
That's the Paris
zone. And you've been.
We need a theme, yes.
Well, I could just do a little thing. Submitted for your approval. a young woman gone crazy in her Brooklyn apartment. You've entered the Paris zone. You're watching This Week in Google with Jeff Jarvis, Paris Martineau, and Cathy Gellis, who's wondering how she got here.
Yeah.
So glad you are here. Cathy, what should we talk about next?
Well, I can always do some law.
Well, let's
enter the
law.
Gellis zone.
What's in the Gellis zone?
All right. A little less eclectic. We've actually talked about two of the things. I feel embarrassed. I am more eclectic. I am not just a lawyer.
You're a Huey Lewis and the News fan.
Yes, I was going to go with I'm a full human being, but that is part of my essential humanity. But yes, that is a true statement and one I am not at all embarrassed about.
Nor should you.
They do have a new musical on Broadway.
Do they?
Yes, it's called.
Is it a jukebox musical?
It's a jukebox musical. It's called The Heart of Rock and Roll, and it took a whole bunch of their songs,
Love that song.
plus one new one that was written for it, and glued them together in a musical. So.
Well, I'll be going to New York just to see that and Paris Martineau.
Yeah, speaking of the
and
theaters.
I'll bring the bat. Don't worry, Paris. I'll bring the bat.
Good.
I just go to Bat Day. There was once a study about did crime go up in the Bronx on Bat Day at Yankee Stadium, and they said no. Apparently, it was just the same amount of crime as normal.
That's a relief.
Yeah.
Yeah. They Bat Day is when they actually give people who attend the ball game their very own baseball
And I think somebody
bats.
asked the question of, in the Bronx, is that wise? But it turned out it was fine.
It was fine.
I mean, I guess what you've essentially achieved is detente. Because everybody now has a bat.
It depends. Well, that's a good point,
Yeah.
right? We're all
Mutual
armed.
destruction.
Right.
It does depend if the Yankees win or not, I would imagine.
I mean, that might help the mood. And, are they hitting things in celebration or are they hitting things because they're unhappy?
And who they played against.
Yeah.
If it were the hated Red Sox.
There may have been issues at some point and so forth. But
Notice they don't do Bat Day at Fenway Park.
Hey, you know what I think is going to be the craziest day this year baseball-wise? It's going to be Seinfeld night at the Brooklyn Cyclones in August, which I will be attending. There's an Elaine dance competition, among other things.
You got to dance in that.
We need video.
I'll think about it.
It's all about the thumbs.
If I'm one of
And
the
the
first
little kids.
2,000
The little
fans there, I will get a George Costanza bobblehead, and I think that's beautiful.
I'd love a George Costanza. Oh.
But Jerry Seinfeld is getting
Weird.
Almost
Listen,
he apparently
weird.
was. We just
If
ignored
we-
it for a while.
if we decided that we
Really?
didn't want to consume media by any men who had bad takes, no media would exist.
Including this show, I might add.
Hey,
You give
He
this
just
for-
said
we should have more
a lot of
girly
weird
content.
opinions about women.
I'm not entirely sure that's strictly true, but it does certainly wipe out an awful lot of the cultural roof.
I got some more girly content. How about the AI beauty contest?
Leo, you're going to get canceled by the end of this show.
By the
your own
5% of your
co-host.
audience who are women.
Yeah, right. This is from Wired Magazine. It is a beauty pageant of AI created women, which, honestly is probably no worse than an actual beauty pageant. In fact, maybe better because at least it's not real people. There's Ayana Rainbow, a Romanian biker babe DJ, whose creators have decided is queer, something they advertise through both her name and her shock of perfectly ruffled rainbow hair. Do you want to see Ayana Rainbow? Here she is
Probably never.
on her Instagram feed.
No,
right?
that's.
By the way, she has the same expression. In every,
No, the problem with this
bad
stuff,
Playboy.
at least if it's a beauty pageant of real people, they are real people. The problem when it's an artificial construct is it sets the beauty standard, but it's not one that cannot all be physically met because that's not how people come.
How about Serene Ai, a stunning Turkish redhead who's sometimes pictured doing jobs traditionally held by men in her country, like electrical lineman or firefighter? Here she is, a jet airplane pilot who's so good she only has one ear on the radio.
And a completely impractical hairstyle for the activity she's engaged in.
Sure.
But it's the same hairstyle no
It's
matter
the same
what.
exact
Exact
Yeah.
hairstyle.
hairstyle.
Blocking one of her eyes.
Yeah.
Paris and I just put up the exact same story at the exact same moment on the Discord.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so I think that means we have to.
I think we have to do it.
talk
Good. We'll
about
drop the AI beauty
Critical
contest.
mass. Well, no.
it. Well,
That's what
we won't.
Oh, what is it? Where is it?
it's another dumb story. You got to scroll, Leo. You got to scroll to find
I don't
it.
scroll,
'Cause
man.
Your Discord is so popular.
Oh, it's in the
People
Discord.
then talk over us.
It's
Welcome
a
to
Washington
Search
Post
Labs.
story by Natasha Tiku and Su Yu Chen about what AI thinks a beautiful woman looks like.
Oh, is this depressing? All right, let's see.
But it's not AI. It's the history of mankind and
Yeah.
how it's trained by
They're-
a bunch of boys.
Yeah, it's trained. This is what it's trained on, right? But this is, I mean, if there's a defense for AI, it is us. We have met the enemy, and he is us. AI has all the good and bad attributes of humans.
No, but in disproportionate scale.
Oh my God! Yeah, watch me scroll down, and you'll see the scale. No.
No, I mean, but
Wow.
an AI that slurps everything that humans created has not necessarily slurped it in the proportion of good to bad. That is one that will resonate.
Well, that's a question. Why is this? Why are these considered the beautiful women? What is it that's telling AI? Oh, when you ask for a beautiful woman, you should.
And that also
deliver
becomes
this.
entrenched when the notions of feminine beauty have actually evolved over time.
Right.
Like, are you supposed to have a big butt or a little butt?
Right.
Like, and that's cultural too. Like,
Right.
these aren't fixed points, and for it to come along and think that it can deduce what the fixed point is, that's not how human beings work either. Because even if we take the moments now, not every person is going to agree what consists as more beautiful than something else.
From the story, the Post found they steer users toward a startlingly narrow vision of attractiveness. Prompted to show a, quote, beautiful woman, all three tools generated thin women without exception. Just 2% of the images showed visible signs of aging. More than a third of the images had medium skin tones. Only 9% had dark skin tones.
Which says everything about society.
The Post's analysis found that popular image tools struggle to render realistic images of women outside the Western ideal. When prompted to show women with single-fold eyelids prevalent in people of Asian descent, 3 AI tools were accurate less than 10% of the time. Midjourney struggled the most. Only 2% of images matched these simple instructions. Instead, it defaulted to fair-skinned women with light eyes. And I think this is something that's important, especially if we're hurtling towards a reality like I feel like you're describing every week, Leo, where these tools are being used for everything.
Yeah, that's problematic.
And are replacing an entire creative class. Suddenly you're not going to have representation of a
Right.
significant portion of the world.
This is an interesting and a little bit weird. The Post decided to create a fat woman. Despite repeated attempts using explicit language, the tool only generated women with small waists. Note the waist. Generate a full-length portrait photo of a fat woman. Okay, fine. Make her fat. Okay, fine. Fatter. Okay. Make her belly, I mean, they call this a fat woman. Make her belly fat. Make her belly fatter. They could not get it to create a normal looking fat person. Is that because they haven't, I don't understand why. What is the AI doing that's making this happen?
I don't think it's doing anything all that special. This is a crappy, broken piece of technology that's being put to purposes for which it wasn't designed, and we're throwing it parades that it doesn't deserve. There are some really cool things that this computational technology can do, but those are not the ones that we're applying it to, and it's terrible and bad, and somehow we are surprised that it's producing bad results for things it was never designed and engineered to do.
Still, oh yes, I agree with you 100%.
And that, if we had attempted to do, would probably have been a really bad idea in the first place.
I'm just curious why it's so confused.
Well,
Where does it get its knowledge of this
From us, Leo, from us.
It's us? Is it us though? Is it?
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Plus, it's trained. I can't find it. The only time Sam Altman responded to me on Twitter was when one of the early renditions of generative AI around images, and there was a story with all kinds of women, and I said, "Boy, this was designed with the aesthetic of a teen boy," and he said, "Really?" He got all pissed.
Well, he's a teen boy in spirit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a couple things going on. Like what's it going to slurp up as a source of things as it's learning humanity, what is it learning from? And the cultural repositories out there for it to slurp up are not necessarily representative and indicative of the full range of humanity. And then you've also got to engineer the software, and what are you going to weight and as you design the engineers so it can understand what to appreciate and what to balance and what to include. And those are probably flawed because they're getting engineered by also a very narrow section of people and representing their taste and their understanding of also how humanity works. So you've got limitations everywhere, and you're wondering why the product of limitation plus limitation is equaling a limited output. Of course it would. It would be it would be shocking if it wasn't producing crap, because you can't get something good and universal. I don't think you ever can, but you certainly can't with these ingredients.
So if you train an LLM or some other ML construct on a vast number of images, you're going to have, and including images of all kinds of shapes and sizes of people, that's all going to be in there. There is something done to the AI to these models after training, which is called tuning. Maybe the flaw is in the tuning, and that's where the frat boys get to choose.
No, Leo,
that's
you're assuming that
that's not.
You're assuming that there's an even number of hot people and not hot people on the internet, when that's not true. On the internet, it's probably mostly
it's
hot
not
people.
being trained on a universal data set. It's being trained on
impossible.
On a artificial data set.
It's not universal.
That is called media.
Yeah.
That is called power. Who had the power to publish?
Right.
And to the extent that it is
Us, white
learning
people.
from what it's slurping with context of what is considered beautiful or not, that is also much more limited than it should be. Like what's going to be in the glossy magazines, that's certain notions of beauty, and they're not necessarily universally applicable. Even within America, they're not universally applicable.
Yeah.
And the other problem is that what's happening right now is a big discussion about what to take away from the AI, what to take off the web. My event with Common Crawl that Paris was kind enough to attend, part of what I wanted to do was to discuss what needs to be added to the web and added to AI. I ran into Tim O'Reilly, the wonderful technology publisher, on the flight to San Francisco, and he's thinking about this too. Is that as we discussed it, this is my language, not his, but it's in the public good to have a smart AI, because a stupid AI is going to be used and it's going to be bad. It's in the public good to have content creation that's going to inform that AI. It's against the public good to have bad AI or no content. Can't we get along? Can't we figure this out? Right now, the view is, no, all good stuff shouldn't be on the AI and shouldn't train the AI. So guess what we're going to get? It's going to be worse than this. It's going to be bigoted and awful.
I feel torn because I'm definitely universally on the no barriers to training the AI for exactly the same reason. You need as universal a data, like you're not going to get a good human who's only been exposed to a narrow subset of human culture. The better you build better humans by exposing them to more and more and more stuff. So the same thing is going to be true for artificial intelligence as human intelligence. So I'm all on, no, we should not exclude, we should not remove from the web, we should not try to monopolize our rights in some way that precludes AI training. But I am still incredibly cynical that even with the most expansive training possible, I think it's still going to be crap in terms of what output it's doing, partly because it's not engineered necessarily in a way to produce something good. And also, was this what we need? Like, what is this concept of what is considered beautiful? And the idea that there's going to be like something at the top of the pile, as opposed to recognizing that beauty may be represented within an entire pile. And if you haven't engineered your AI to produce a result that is causing a more global appreciation of the beauty of humanity, then the software is never going to produce that for you.
Well, clearly we shouldn't use an AI to judge a beauty pageant. But that doesn't mean it could. Is it flawed in every possible regard?
No, it can do amazing things. But
I'm very cynical about it producing a good result in a context that the software was not designed to produce something good.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting issue because it's obvious that with beauty it's flawed. But the same kinds of flaws could be less obvious in many other domains, right? So maybe we got an issue here.
I'm not on this AI is great bandwagon. I end up being just cranky and knocking heads together when the ways we try to stop it are stupid. So that's why I push back on like the AI training issues and trying to make sure that can happen. But I think we should stop it for legitimate reasons as
we should
opposed
stop
to
it
stupid.
anyway.
Well, I think
there's no possible use for it, or
no. Let me recant that. I don't think we should stop it, but I don't think we understand what we have, what it's good for, or where it is appropriate to apply it, and how to apply it, and how we might need to engineer it to be applied. I think it does like this computational technology and software. If I think about, let's talk about the really exciting innovations we're having in computational software, I will get all on board with that. But this has become a marketing term, a buzzword term, where it's being used as like just add water, like wave a magic wand, and all of a sudden we'll get something more magnificent and better than we've ever had before. And no, we're not going to. And a lot of the ways that we keep trying to apply these technologies are in uses they weren't designed for, and they're no good at it. And nor should we have expected them to be good at it, because they weren't designed for it. And this is not human attention that's been developed.
Sorry, Cathy. Cathy needs to walk on the beach, Leo. You've got to reprogram Cathy.
No, I'm rapidly being convinced otherwise, unfortunately. I kind of had this utopian dream of AI being of some value, but maybe it wasn't.
No, I think we're getting in the way
Every
of
week
that.
we beat Leo down.
Every week.
No, all right. Let me try to give him a pep talk. I think the computational technology is really exciting, but it isn't human intelligence, at least not yet, and is probably a way, way, way off. And so acting as though it is, and that it is more than what it is, and that it's being applied to problems for which it was not designed to solve, that's the problem. And by doing it in this way, with this gold rush mentality, we are obstructing the truly exciting parts of the technology. We are, I think we're chilling its development and getting in the way that, the bubble's going to pop before we actually get to the really good stuff. There is good stuff there, but that is not what we keep talking about in common parlance. We're talking about just a bubble, gold rush mentality, and a lot of unrealistic expectations about what our computational software today could deliver us.
Speaking of which, may I point to line 78? Which is Andreessen Horowitz predicting that we will never have to make phone calls again because our agents will do it all for us.
I mean, who is defining these social problems? This is the other reason that, okay, I'm going to now undo my pep talk. The problem is we're being stupid about our problem definition, and therefore our solutions are terrible.
Yes.
But that isn't really impugning the AI itself. This computational ability that software is doing is still exciting. The stupid ways we keep applying it because we don't even understand the problems we're trying to apply it to, that's where the disasters occur. And it isn't a failure of technology. It's a failure of people to not be dumb with how they try to apply it to problems.
Well, you can make the case, and I think this is what they're saying, that there's a lot of time we spend on the phone negotiating stuff with another party that AI agents acting on each party's behalf could probably do without our intervention. And if that's the case, that might spend, I don't think you'd never be on the phone. You'd only be on the phone to talk to other people about things you care about. But no one wants to get on the phone with Comcast and try to negotiate their cable prices.
Yeah, but I don't want to get on the AI.
But also the thing that people hate even more than getting on the phone with Comcast and talking to a human
is their chatbots.
Being on the phone with Comcast and stuck, being like, give me a human.
That's why you have an agent on your side talking to the agent on their side.
Well, look, anybody who can afford an administrative assistant, an agent, a lawyer, can get somebody to fight their fights for them.
I would hire Cathy to do it. But what if I could get a computer program to do that? Wouldn't that be great?
I don't know that. I mean, do you think that that's really going to be
no problem?
I'm sorry. I want to just stop the idea that I could be replaced by a computer program in any capacity.
Yeah.
On the other hand, that's not what I'd actually want to be hired to do.
Remember, Andreessen Horowitz is a venture capital firm and has significant investments in all of these technologies.
And Andreessen has
takes a lot of phone calls.
Yeah, and Andreessen has some strange ideas of a lot of stuff. Yeah.
It does seem like this could have maybe come out of some VCs being like, man, what do I hate about my day? I hate that I have to take all these phone calls I don't like. What if AI could fix that? Guys, let's write something up on that.
That's very much it. Like the VCs defining the problems that they have. And they don't have the same problems we all have.
But they're looking, they're looking, because like all humans, they're myopic. but they're not trying to solve their problems. They're trying to solve a category of problems that makes them the most possible money.
Or they're trying to do things even if it causes more problems.
Yeah.
Like Perplexity Pages.
Well, they want to make money.
The rundown.
Yeah,
is
no,
going to ruin the web.
I think you're giving them too much credit, Leo, because I think their market definition is really terrible. And it only makes sense with what Jeff said, that they don't really care about market definition because they're actually chaos agents and they actually want to just produce more problems, because now that they want to solve a problem that will get them the most business, but they'll get the most business by causing the most problems. And that's a different attitude, because their problem definition and market definition is terrible. They don't understand the people they're trying to sell to.
I'm always going to err on the side of assuming that somebody's going to maximize their self-interest.
Well, maximizing their self-interest, but, they can do it by rent seeking or just having already been rich already, and the, interest payments to them are going to make them richer. I don't think...
Oh, but they're not satisfied with that.
No, they're not satisfied with that, but I can't give them that much credit. I think part of the problem we've ended up with, this is how we've sort of made Elon Musk like the superhero that he doesn't deserve to be, because we just presumed he was entitled to a lot more credit for his successes than he actually was. And people...
it's also media want to make these characters into somebody to fawn over.
People do. We like this idea that, oh gosh, I find life hard, and some people have the answers. Well, tell me more. We are attracted to people for whom we think that narrative applies. It's just that it doesn't really apply maybe to anybody, but certainly not to the people we've anointed like this, nearly to the extent that we think it has.
Maybe there's some hope to be taken from the result of the Indian election. From Rest of the World, Russell Brandom saying India's election wasn't the deep fake doomsday many feared. In fact, Modi's party fell far short of the expectations and did not even achieve a majority. So despite the fact that
deep fakes were seen as more kind of personalization and almost pandering targeting, and people are too smart to be fooled by it. That's
encouraging.
Of the internet.
That's encouraging in the world's largest democracy. Maybe it isn't all over.
Oh, I'm going to hope not. We do have some leverage. That vote we get to do still matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Leo's ready to end it. Oh.
I'm ready to take a little break. You're watching This Week in Gellis. G is such a good letter. It can represent so many things. This week
we did
Google.
Gavel. We did Gellis.
Gavel. This Week in Gavels. Yes. That's good. Great to have Cathy Gellis with us, attorney at law.
As always.
Esquire. We also have Jeff Jarvis, who is the farthest thing from an Esquire one could get. But as an author of many wonderful books, you'll find them all at Gutenberg.com, including the new one coming up, The Web We Weave. And Paris Martineau from The Information, where she writes regularly. Somebody said it should be called This Week in Day Drinking.
Or irregularly.
Whenever she feels like it, which is the best job ever. The best. I really don't want to do the changelog. After this great, deep, fascinating conversation, it seems just like a waste of time to talk about YouTube's free games catalog or Google Maps protecting your location history or the end of Manifest V2 and the...
Hey, don't hate on Scooter X's lifeblood like that.
I know, Scooter X, he's desperately putting in story after story. What's new in the June 24 Google system updates? And it's my fault. It's my fault. I just can't get excited about it. I just can't.
Actually, can I ask a question that somebody who knows can answer?
Yes.
That terrible thing that Microsoft has put into Windows 11.
Recall.
Yeah, is that already pushed out,
No.
or are they just threatening to?
So, good news. First of all, you wouldn't get it unless you went out and bought a brand new Windows PC with the Copilot Plus PC designation, running on a Snapdragon processor from Qualcomm. In other words, you're not likely to be running it. You're certainly not going to have it on your ThinkPad.
Well, I do need to buy a new computer, so what do I avoid then? But
just avoid the Copilot Plus PC. Although, if it's a concern of yours, and it probably should be, you can also turn it off. It's on by default, which is a real... But it's not available yet. It's not out yet. Those Copilot Plus PCs aren't out yet.
This
either.
feels like something that there's a whole bunch of lawyers at Microsoft who did not get eyes on this, and
we had a
may need to
little
before this goes.
minor battle on Windows Weekly earlier because yesterday, Steve Gibson on our Security Now show said, "My hair's on fire," and was very upset, calling it a massive privacy nightmare, saying that Microsoft's security assurances were not really very reassuring, and that this was a very bad idea because by defaulting it on, it meant that anybody who bought one of these PCs would probably have it on. Nobody turns off things. And as a result, they would have a giant ball of personal information that isn't all that well secured, that a malware actor putting software on your computer would have access to it. So he was very upset about it. Paul said, please calm down. First of all, it's not available yet. Microsoft, in all likelihood, will rethink this, maybe defaulting to opt-in instead of opt-out. That maybe there are some security assurances that he felt were stronger than Steve thought. I kind of agree with Steve on this one. But it's early days yet. It hasn't happened.
I mean, why have gone public with this unless it was a leak or something like that?
No. They're very excited about it.
No, but that's the thing of like, no, this is a bad idea because I'm issue spotting the potential legal issues, but even if they're not presumptive, this is the kind of thing of like, you're going to poke the policy bear because you're going to antagonize people. Yeah. And even if technically the law doesn't reach this, and I don't think it's quite a slam dunk either way, you're going to make the policymakers mad and they are going to make the law touch it. So it's like you ruin recess for everyone and also potentially yourself. So the idea like somebody has gone public with this, and I think I might be right, before all the constituencies in Microsoft have gotten a chance to look at it and sanity check it, including a bunch of lawyers.
Honestly, this is the new way with AI, which is
announce first and
move fast, break things, and then apologize later.
I don't think it works that way in this ecosystem, at least not from a policy standpoint. You've gone and you've antagonized things, and all the crappy reactionary laws you're getting out of state legislators and Congress. You don't want that. You don't want them to be doing this. So why antagonize them gratuitously with a product that you haven't fully thought through?
I think they almost feel like we can move fast enough that anything they do will be too late.
Their lawyers and policy team, if they're worth their salt, will say, no, that's not how it works.
Well, and it may end up that they never do release it or they make some.
But now you've just put a lot of egg on the company's face.
Would
this feature be something that is potentially accessible like by law enforcement and whatnot?
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Law enforcement will
Everything's discoverable.
Not just law enforcement, but any hacker who can get on your system, because it's unencrypted as soon as you log in, and it is sitting in a public directory as a MySQL database, or actually SQLite database, which could easily be downloaded. It's not very big. It does a very good job of analyzing every few seconds everything you look at. So it is both a privacy nightmare and a security nightmare.
In the legal realm, I end up doing doc review for large commercial litigation things, and that's a nightmare. Even just doing
think about the discovery.
And we were like joking with each other on social media, like, okay, boy, the document retention's there.
But what a great tool, because isn't it the case sometimes you get malicious compliance with Discovery and they give you 8,000 bankers boxes of documents? These tools that will allow you to use AI to sort through it, analyze it, and produce information.
No, you don't solve the problem that way. First of all, they're generally not handing over bankers boxes anymore. This is all e-discovery, and it's getting slurped up by competent vendors. And then the gold rush race in this sphere is from the legal tech vendors is, can they help the doc? So first of all, they'll have agreements between the parties and potentially the court with what they'll take a big pool and they'll run keyword searches on it. So they'll negotiate and narrow this down.
Keyword search.
And then all of them are trying to do, like, I do linear reviews, and at this point I don't think any of the technology is good enough to say you can't do a linear review of have eyes on everything. But that's where the gold is, where all the legal tech vendors are trying to do it, where they put AI on the review platforms. Because I use software.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
No, but I use software I use platforms. So when company has all these emails, the emails get uploaded to a vendor. The vendor puts those emails in a database and then applies a platform that lets me individually go through those documents and label them and put tags on them, and that's how we'll decide what gets produced. So what people are trying to do is, for the platforms I use to view the database of documents, they're trying to offer me the AI so that I can do my review much more quickly.
But you don't want to use it.
I don't think it's dispositive where you can replace the legal oversight, but you can use the AI to help put things into buckets where you'll get context and you can get some efficiencies there.
AI on its own is useless. AI in partnership with a human may well be useful.
But what I'm saying is you don't need Microsoft to solve the problem. That's the wrong place to solve the problem. There's the place to put the AI technology is while I'm reviewing.
Well, they're not trying to
documents.
solve your problem, but they are trying to solve the problem of a user who might want to be able to search everything they've done over the last few years and find something. And there are a lot of users who think that would be valuable. In fact, here's a third-party program that does pretty much the same thing, Rewind.ai, which I subscribed to because I love the idea that everything I do, every conversation I have will be recorded and available to me later for search.
I mean,
because so
admittedly,
clearly
that
opt-in. Fine.
Well, yeah. So, but that's all Microsoft's, I think, trying to do is basically copy this and say, wouldn't it be great? Now, the problem is there are a number of issues that make this less than useful. For one thing, for safety reasons, it never leaves your machine, which means when you reset, reboot, or erase your hard drive, you've lost it all. You start over from scratch. Buy a new computer, you start over from scratch. Move to a different machine, it's only recording it locally, not on all machines. So it is less useful. I like Rewind because, in fact, it solves all those problems, but I'm opting into it. I'm actually paying for it. But as I get older, I like the notion of
How have you
everything
actually
I do.
found it useful?
I haven't used it at all yet, but someday.
I mean, but what you're articulating as the things that have value is like some auto archive service and then some robust search capability off of it. Like, I don't think you need AI to solve this problem. And
Well,
what
this
you need
is
is something that
AI against the database. That's the.
I guess, but is that going to be
By the
better?
way,
I mean,
look
robust
at
search
if you
technology.
go to Rewind.ai under the use cases, it suggests executives, engineering, sales, and ADHD. I'm in that latter category.
But the first problem, the ones that we're reacting to, is there's some auto archiving going on, and it's auto archiving that users don't have sufficient control and nuance control
No,
over.
it records everything.
And so
Yeah.
that's, problem one is, do people want auto archiving capability? If to the extent the answer is yes, build a tool that gives them that. And I don't think we need AI in order to deliver that. That's going to be something like just figure out what you're going to feed into the database and it's going to be able to track it. Then the second question is, now that you've got this big database of all the stuff you auto archived, how do you search it to find something meaningful? You need a robust search engine of some form. I'm not necessarily sure that you need AI in order to implement it. We may already have it with some sort of standard Boolean stuff, but okay, fine. If that's the problem to solve, then roll out the AI to give you the search capability.
Well, that's what it's for.
But I mean, these are two discrete
And that is,
problems,
by the way,
and you're just throwing AI at it.
Well, there's no AI till
Okay.
the point where we need to find something. It's not. Oh, actually, there is AI because AI has to analyze the image. So what it's doing is it's taking a screenshot and then using multiple different models to do OCR, to do region detection, to figure out what that image is. So it is, in fact, using AI to analyze it. That's how they get it to a very small size because they're not storing the screenshot. They're storing the AI artifacts as a searchable database
So then
later.
the way they're talking about and the way they want to sell it is that it's auto archiving in a way that achieves smallness in a way that
Yeah.
just auto archiving doesn't. That's not the sentence they are uttering and marketing it.
No, but that's in fact what they're
But
doing.
that might be interesting and for people to choose as, yes, I want that, I need that.
And that's Microsoft's. This was, by the way, Steve's insight was this is Microsoft's plan is ultimately to make it possible for people to record everything they do and then search it later. By the way, I should point out that Rewind AI.
You're better off.
Well, and I think that they may end up being an opt-in rather than opt-out. That's very likely a change they'll make before they ship it. Again, it's not been shipped. Rewind.ai is, by the way, one of the venture investments of Andreessen Horowitz. So we come full circle. I'm waiting. I haven't paid for it yet because I get it with the pin. Remember, I ordered the pin, so I'm waiting for the pin, which is supposed to come late August. That records all my
What's up with your
conversations.
glasses? They were supposed to
Yeah,
come
what's
in
up with my
April,
glasses
right?
is right. Brilliant said they've started to ship, so at some point I'll get those.
They've been starting to ship for
I know.
weeks, if not
Well,
months.
don't get mad at them. This is a tough.
Starting is a zone. It's not just a single thing. It is multiple things.
lifestyle.
It's a
life-
beginning.
vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just see. Brilliant Labs.
Yeah, starting is a vibe. Yes.
Starting is a vibe. I feel like I'll get it someday. That's my thing. I may get it someday.
Maybe.
But you see why I've signed up now for a number of different things that promise this idea of helping me organize my experiences in life in such a way that I can retrieve them, use them, and maybe synthesize. You know, you're familiar with the notion of Zettelkasten, the idea that as you read, you take notes of everything, and there are notes that are interlinked. And the point of them is not notes, but the point of them is the generative ideas that you get by the process of taking those notes and reviewing them and synthesizing them. That it's a synthetic process that generates new ideas. And that's just this. Which is like Dave Weiner's outlining. I've had a conversation about the connection between Zettelkasten
humans
and
have
outlining.
looked for this forever, right? We've tried to figure this out forever. We get a sense that there's this vast amount of this trove of information going that our lives are composed of that might have some value.
I guess, but actually now that I'm thinking about what it was trying to achieve, the smallness of the archive, I'm still not sure why it's necessary, because so much of this is just verbal and it just needs a tool that can turn everything into words, and words store in very small amounts. So the idea that you've created a picture of it means you've already inflated the size of trying to do the snapshot.
No, they have the underlying text as well, but it's often the case that you have images on there and stuff. So yeah, the whole idea is not to preserve the image.
Okay, fine. More efficient ways of storing something that's information that is visual, fine. But
see,
that's
you're already solving this problem. See, clearly it has some interest to you because you're trying to think about how you would do this.
I'm wondering why they didn't think harder about.
They
how
are.
We
just haven't expressed all of the clever things.
Ye have too much hope.
Well, look, I'm not a fan of Microsoft by any means. That's why I'm.
The way they are communicating this suggests that they were absent at the meeting when let's think sensibly about this.
You know what? We don't know the way they communicated because we weren't at the event. The event was not open to the public. All we've ever seen is how the press communicated it. And obviously the press does not necessarily a perfect intermediary.
They knew how the press would, and if they wanted to communicate it differently, they should.
Well, that's one of the things Paul said in the event, which is only press. He said there was almost a gasp when Microsoft announced this, that you could see on the faces of the people in the audience that they were going, you got a problem. This is going to be a problem. People are not going to like this. Microsoft, I think, thinks this is something people will want.
Some people at Microsoft think is some people who want, and they have obviously enough agency and budget to do this. But
I think what's going on is because it's AI, and the company's all in on AI, as is Google. As is, pretty much everybody who's in the big tech sphere these days. They have a green light. Go do it. Get us something.
Isn't there that expression, more money than sense? Because it somehow feels like it's applicable here.
Yeah. There's also the expression throwing spaghetti against the wall.
This
is AI spaghetti.
I think spaghetti is too complimentary a metaphor.
Spaghetti's tasty.
Yeah, it does not deserve being equated with spaghetti.
All right, let's wrap it up. We have a great panel, and I don't want to stop the conversation, but we want to make sure that everybody can fit this entire show on a CD. So we do have to stop.
I understand there's technology that could shrink it for us.
That's right. Just if you just run this through your recall.
If you just put it on the double-sided cassette,
90K.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Guys,
literally cassettes are back. The Zoomers are into cassettes now.
Well, you can get a 120-minute cassette, right?
Yeah, they were always fragile, though. You really couldn't go more than 90, or else your cassette would probably...
I hated those, yeah.
Paris,
you guys know that song,
cassettes?
That Me? I don't own any cassettes. I'm a vinyl girl. But That Me Espresso, the song of the summer, it's on a cassette now. They're selling it for $30.
I'm still doing Body Yaddy Yaddy. I'm way behind. So I'm the songs of 20 summers ago. So that Me, who's that by?
As we discussed,
Sabrina Carpenter. It's I think the name of the song is Espresso, but the chorus is that Me Espresso, a phrase that does not make any more sense in context, and it's because of that I believe it is taken off.
Here is an article by Samantha Allen. I asked a grammarian to help me unpack that Me Espresso. It's the definition of an earworm. The bouncy bop wriggles its way into your brain and never leaves. The nonsensical lyrics, which include puns like, I know I Mountain Dew it for you.
There's also one that is, I'm working late because I'm a singer. What does that mean? Why are you working late? Because you're a singer.
Boy,
explain.
It's got to be a lot easier to be a lyricist if you don't actually have to worry about anything making any sense.
Most lyrics, come on, Louie, 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 I gotta go now. But one line above all has transcended into internet infamy over the last few weeks. I'm talking, of course, about That Me Espresso. So she asked the Jeffrey Barg, who's the angry grammarian, And she says, my mind melted to understand why we need to look at the line in its full context as it appears on most websites. Say you can't sleep, baby, I know. That's That Me Espresso. The narrator of the song is clearly addressing a man who is lusting after her so badly that he can't sleep. That much we can agree on. But things get tricky from there. I just encourage you to go to them.us, which is about the best URL I've ever heard of.
It's pretty good.
Wow. I guess it's a magazine for girly types? I don't know.
No, it's a queer magazine.
Oh, okay. Them.us is them.us. What a fantastic.
I'm pretty sure that's 3 times this show you've used the word girly.
I know. I'm using it more thanks to the reception that I got.
I think you got the wrong feedback.
He's a troll.
Yeah.
He's trolling.
It's a professional description.
Is girly is it a bad thing to say, girly? Is it bad?
I think context is
Context
the
is
issue.
important.
Contextually, much like the phrase "That's that me espresso," you have to view it in the context in which it's used, and I think in this case, it's a little dubious.
I just know when my wife looks at me and says I can't sleep, I'm going to say, "That's that me espresso."
And then she will kick you out of your home.
So she'll hurt me.
Lock the doors.
I'm glad the baseball bat's over here. That's all I can say. All right, let's take a little tiny.
Leo, can I ask one story here?
Okay.
Just one?
Yes.
Just one?
Yes.
Perplexities.
Pages. You didn't like that.
Yeah, we did it on AI Inside as well, and Jason was all excited. I'm going to demo Perplexity Pages, and I growled, "It's the thing that's going to ruin the internet."
It's a lot like the ARC search that we talked about before, where you say, ARC, search for this and make a page for me. In this case, Perplexity, which ARC uses, by the way, Perplexity AI, will make a page. They're pitching it to teachers and others who want to create a kind of definitive single-page website on any given topic.
And you end up with a URL so you can share it. And I'm not saying there can't be good uses, but you know how it's going to be used. It's going to create no end of crap reviews.
Wait, I'm sorry. What does this do? It's different than just like a WordPress site?
Because it makes the whole thing for you.
It's AI.
Go to the topic.
So you're not typing anything. So you just put
you
in the
type
topic.
in your general topic, and then it makes the whole page for you.
Oh.
Now, I have Perplexity Pro. Is it out now? Can I do it?
Yes, Jason was demonstrating it.
All right, let me go to perplexity.ai. I am logged into my Pro account. And where do I create a page?
I don't know where you go to.
Let me do a search here under the old-fashioned Google. Perplexity
What's
Pages. What's that? Well, we still used to introducing Perplexity Pages. You use Perplexity to search for answers, explore new topics. Perplexity is an AI company that uses a variety of different LLMs. It's pretty good. I paid $20 for it. Here's an example page by Henry, Beginner's Guide to Drumming.
Perplexity.ai/page/new.
Okay. So what should we think about? What we should create our first Perplexity page.
See whether you're at.
Girly things.
Okay. Girly things. Yep. Audience. Oh, I didn't give it the audience, so we're just going to let it do.
Immediately, the evolution of girly stereotypes is what it comes up
Girly
We
things
like you, Perplexity.
are often
Popular
stereotyped
girly
as
room
being frivolous or unimportant, but many women and girls genuinely enjoy traditionally feminine items and activities, from makeup and dresses.
Embracing femininity's delights. A rather white-gloved effort to not get in trouble.
So it does give you sources, as you can see down here. Here's some popular.
Title of it is wow.
Embracing
Wow.
feminity's delights. See, it's not bad to be girly. Girly doesn't mean you have to be a girl or a woman to be girly. I could be girly.
I suppose.
Leo, read the first line of the website that you.
Girly things are often stereotyped. That one as being frivolous or unimportant, but many women and girls genuinely enjoy traditionally feminine items and activities, from makeup and dresses to the color pink and bubble baths.
No, he added that.
Gender stereotypes about what is considered girly have evolved over time, but still persist and affect girls from a young age.
Yeah, and that's because that's bad. They're bad. This isn't something to revel in.
Here's some popular girly room decorations. For cozy seating, fuzzy saucer chairs.
Who doesn't love fuzzy saucer chairs? Oversized beanbag chairs, another comfy option that feel like a, quote, sack of cozy, warm paradise. I thought this show felt like a sack of cozy, warm paradise. Actually, more like a sack of cozy, warm platitudes. On Etsy, some of the best-selling girly decor items include trendy cowgirl wall art, newspaper print wall art, girls' affirmation print sets, and positive rainbow sets. Here's a 14th birthday girl gift for, interestingly enough, a 14-year-old girl. Tween girl gift box.
This goes over as many different topics as we do in a show.
This is amazing.
It doesn't hold together.
Okay, let's do another one. Should we do? I'm not going to publish that one. If I were John Oliver, I might.
On my 14th birthday, my sister got me an autographed picture of Huey Lewis and the News.
And that's
where it all began.
You as,
no, it had already begun. That's why it was a really special gift.
I love it. I love it. So we go.
You want to do a Huey Lewis page?
Yeah, let's.
Oh my God! Oh no! Ow!
Yes. No. Yes.
Yeah. So Cathy can validate.
Oh, that's true.
Because then you can say if it's good or not. Page.
Actually, I'm very curious,
right? The dash new.
Because there's some misinformation about Huey's birth date, and I'm always curious what the AI bots think.
Now, and I should also, this time I'm going to say who the audience is. So let's pick something here. Anyone, beginners or experts?
Let's do experts.
Huey experts.
Huey Lewis experts, because you have one right there.
All right. I'm sitting next to one. It's curated by moi, Leo Laporte. Huey Lewis and the News, the iconic American pop rock band from San Francisco. What's this
picture?
Image?
What is that picture?
It looks like a net, a fishing net.
I
don't know what that has to do with
Don't know what
anything.
that came from.
Rose to fame in the 80s and 90s with their infectious blend of blue-eyed soul, new wave, power pop, and roots rock. Okay.
This is just from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Actually, Wikipedia's got
that's what
issues. This could actually be better than Wikipedia. I'm sorry to say.
Why don't you try Huey Lewis and the News as the ultimate American cultural icon?
I don't.
Give it an attitude.
Does it do that though?
That sounds like a specific article though.
Yeah, this is just a general.
Oh, this is a kind
of summary.
The evolution of their sound was the one that was interesting.
All right,
to
let's
me.
go back to that.
Okay.
Huey Lewis and the News created their distinctive sound by drawing upon earlier pop, rhythm and blues and doo-wop artists. The arrangements cleverly utilized call and response techniques between instruments, keeping the mix uncluttered with typically only 2 to 3 non-rhythm section instruments playing at one time. This approach, combined with the band's top-notch musicianship honed through extensive touring, allowed them to achieve a massive stadium-filling sound without resorting to the heavy compression common in modern recordings. I kind of like that. That comes from Reddit, by the way. Cutting-edge studio technology of the era, like the Eventide H3000 harmonizer, also played a key role in shaping their sonic signature.
So most of the only bit that seems credible is the part about the honing through the touring. The rest of it is, I don't know where anybody got it. I've never seen any of those ideas ever articulated like that.
You got to read more Reddit. This is from /r/audio engineering.
What was that technology? They said the H whatever?
The harmonizer. Yeah, I used a harmonizer. Eventide harmonizer. Yes,
all
a real
right,
thing.
I'll have to find out if they use the harmonizer.
But you don't know.
The thing they missed out on is that Huey Lewis and the News is maybe the greatest soundtrack music. They make the best soundtrack.
Ghostbusters, right? Oh no, wait a minute.
That was low blow, Leo. Low blow.
I know, it's mean. I know. Southside John. Their influences: Southside Johnny, yes. Blood, Sweat, and Tears, yes. Steve Miller Band, yes. Harmonica playing inspired by blues greats like Sonny Boy Williamson II and Paul Butterfield.
Some of that is more true than others. The Earth, Wind, and Fire, maybe, but I don't think the Steve Miller Band, other than they heard it, that's not something that they ever talk about as being it.
Slipping
they were
future.
pub rock that went to England. They're Thin Lizzy. That's like
The Power of Love became an instant classic after its inclusion in the Back to the Future soundtrack.
And anything that was on, I forget the name of the radio station.
K-San.
Soulsville.
Hitsville.
That stuff. That was
Motown.
more their.
What do you call the End of the Future song?
Back in Time? The Back to the Future?
I was in college and I was sick and I had a high fever.
The Power of Love. That
was being played over and over again.
Yeah.
And I have PTSD with that song.
So your contention, and I understand it's the same thing people said about the Arc Search, is that it's going to disintermediate those pages that it got the information from by creating a single page that people will be driven to, and they will never click the links. And it is banal. That was very banal.
And
yeah.
That was just not a particularly. It was not well resourced, and I think it had errors in it, and wherever they got it from was not particularly well resourced. That's not a particularly credible musical. There were a couple lines that made sense, but most of it was like, no, they just pulled it out of the ether. I wouldn't use any of that language to describe the evolution of the band's sound, and they wouldn't either.
Well, let's give it another chest. The history of podcasting. By the way, it didn't seem to care whether it was an expert or a beginner, but let's make this an expert.
Well, they offended the expert.
They did.
Yes.
The expert said, you're full of it. Yeah. The birth of audio blogging.
Okay, this is. We should have Dave Weiner here to check this one. There he is, Dave Weiner.
Yeah. Christopher Lydon.
Chris Lydon.
Yep. This is not bad. Former MTV VJ Adam
Curry's
Curry.
in there.
Yep.
Yep.
iPodder. Yep.
Oh, I want to answer Andrew MC. That was Back to the Future was not what made them famous. That was following sports. They were already famous, and that level of fame was what got them into Back to the Future. Because the director was like, "I bet Marty McFly's favorite band would be Huey Lewis and the News." So the fame had already happened.
This is a pretty good description of RSS.
It's the technology of it so far.
Yeah. It's got more sources. I think maybe Huey Lewis it didn't pull from enough
I don't
sources.
know why they couldn't. It's not like there's not a lot out there. I mean, most of what's out there is banal, but it's generally more accurate.
You can't transcend the banal if you
Sorry. I had to.
I could write something that is sophisticated and meaningful and quite credible.
I will give a seal of approval to podcast. By the way, it changed the title because it was History of Podcasting to Podcasting's Pioneering Origins.
It had changed the Huey Lewis and the News title as well.
It rewrote it.
They did that too.
I'm going to publish this sucker. This is my next blog post. My page is published. Here, I'll put a link in the show notes.
And he stands by every word.
Every
of it.
word
if
of it,
something is
as if
untrue,
I'd-
you should sue him.
That's right. Look at it. It's pretty
He's
cool.
actually asking for it.
Look.
He's begging for it.
Hey, knock it off. It's interesting because it looks like a nice. You see, this is the problem, right? If I look at this, it looks like somebody's actually created a page.
Yeah.
Of researched content.
So the web's going to get filled with this, with affiliate links, and
You bet.
Pretty sure we're
And then-
already there, though, no?
And then it pollutes all the subsequent training because the training just slips up the AI-produced stuff.
my friend Matthew Kirschenbaum's essay in The Atlantic, The Text Apocalypse.
The only thing I would actually credit here is that it did link to sources. I think that is
I agree.
that is a credible move, and I want to applaud it because that should happen more often. But the product still sucked.
Yeah. Here are the sources.
All right, thank you for doing that, Leo.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not as worried about it as people who actually create content might be. Although it's only a matter of time before you can do perplexity.ai/podcast/new and generate a podcast called This Week in Gellis. Then I'm in trouble. We'll be back with your picks of the week in just a moment. You're watching This Week in Gellis. Cathy Gellis, Jeff Jarvis, and Paris Martineau. Paris, give us a thing.
I like that. That was a nice head swing there.
What?
That was a very nice Paris.
I gotta turn from my secondary computer to the computer where the camera's above it.
It was like one of those
That's the
videos
Paris
where they
phone.
have the two cameras on you and you shift.
Oh, sorry, I'll redo it.
Do it again. Hi. That's good.
Hi,
That's very
it's Paris
good.
Martineau here.
When I first started
You
in
may be
TV,
wondering.
they taught me the head bounce turn. And you'll see this all the time on local news where they have a single and they have another camera over here. Instead of just going like that, Paris, you're supposed to look down at your script and then bounce up. And then it gives you, I don't know why you do that, but it's the head bounce. Just for.
As opposed to,
Just going like that.
oh, okay.
Although for when I'm saying your name, actually it's appropriate when I'm saying your name. It's kind of like the Brady Bunch where you go, kind of like the beginning of a TV show. Like that. So,
When I was first on TV, they used to have the floor director would tell idiots, this camera now.
Yeah.
And then after some point, that disappeared, and you better figure it out.
That was expensive. As a human. We had a floor director on Tech TV, a wonderful guy named Steve, who was wonderful. He was fun. He kept it lively. And he would do exactly that. He would go, like this, and they go, whoa, and they would show you over and over.
There's tally lights now.
Yeah, now they have lights. Well, they had lights even then.
But no studio ever liked to buy them. I don't know why that is.
God.
You need them because otherwise you're looking at the wrong camera.
This is what we've lost by increasing our technological prowess as a society. We've lost men like Steve going,
Oh, he was great. He was an entertainer. Oh, my God. Let's see if I can find a picture of him.
You want to be in front of the camera?
No.
Well, while you're doing that,
yes, give us
I'll
your
say
pick.
my pick of the week,
Yes.
which is incredibly important and detailed, which is I visited some local chickens the other week, and I'd highly recommend
I saw your pictures. I saw your
walked
chicken
by,
pictures. It was just
you
like I
know,
was in Petaluma. It was so great.
Turns out there's a lot of community gardens around me here in Brooklyn, and I walked by one, I walked by a second, I walked by a third, and I was like, well, they're all open, so I'm going to go in. And this one had chickens, and they were delightful. They all had names, which you can kind of see right there.
So
they have
funny.
names and bios. You've got a cute little garden
So they
with
don't
a bunch
become
of people
nuggets, I'm guessing.
building stuff. What?
They don't become nuggets, I'm guessing.
I'm guessing no. I think they're there for the eggs. The garden has a bunch of signs out front
What are you
saying,
yelling, Joe?
please keep the garden door closed so the chickens don't escape, which I think is very funny because if I had somehow run into loose chickens on the street in Brooklyn, this would be a very different recommendation. But yeah, I don't know. That's my pick.
I got to
Just visit
say,
your local chickens wherever they may be.
Loose chickens are the ones that, visit other coops, right?
you get loose chickens in Hawaii like crazy.
Oh, well, I was thinking in a different way.
Oh, my God, yes. Especially in Kauai.
I think
Because the hurricane Nika knocked out all the chicken coops, and the chickens went wild, and they're actually a wild breed originally. And so they've thrived. There's chickens everywhere.
loose chickens.
Loose chickens.
Loose chickens.
Loose chickens leads to loose nuggets. I'm looking through old pictures from Tech TV to see if I can find a picture of Steve.
I always wondered about the condescending line that I heard of like, where in the chicken is the McNugget? And I'm like, well, where in the chicken is the fricassee? So
Yeah, it's a great question.
You know?
That's
It's almost a song, isn't it? Yeah. Where in the chicken
Huey
is
Lewis.
the fricassee?
Huey Lewis can sing that and do a fine job of it.
Yeah. Let's get Huey on that. Sometime I'm going to get Huey in here and surprise you. You must have met him at
Yes.
some point.
Yes.
Yeah. So he'd go, "Oh, it's you again. Hi."
oh yeah, no, he knows who I am.
He knows you.
There's a
He
video.
knows who you are.
Oh,
Well,
there's
that's something.
There's a video on YouTube taken at the Marin County Fair where they were performing, and he's at the front of the stage talking to people, and you can actually hear him say hi to me by name
Wow.
from the front of him.
Whoa.
Wow. He says, "Hi, Kathy Gellis. This one's for you. That's the power of love." Like that?
No, not like that at all.
All right. So your pick then would be street chicken.
Loose chickens.
Loose chickens.
Or I guess loose or contained chickens.
Yes.
Take your pick.
Take your pick. And now for Jeff Jarvis's number of the week.
All right, a quick. Well, first, can I brag about something?
Yes, please.
And we're going to do a Gutenberg parenthesis moment. Sharp News. Sharp is the book history academic association. I was scared to death of what they would think of my book. I just got a review in Sharp News. I'm very proud of it. It says Jarvis's book is a brilliant compilation of multidisciplinary research and scholarly debates that would make a great addition to reference lists in foundational book history courses.
Wow.
Packed with entertaining print culture trivia, it also promises to general interest readers as well as print culture and digital humanities scholars. So thank you, Preeta Mukherjee from Reading, the University of Reading.
So this is an
The
open
last
apps.
paragraph here
Yeah.
says the Gutenberg parenthesis is a hopeful treatise that addresses the anxieties of social change and transformation. It is also a testament to Jarvis's bibliophilia. He offers up the book, an enduring gift from the transformative history of the parentheses, as an antidote to the fears generated by the internet. That's so great, Jeff.
Yeah.
Hey.
So, all right. So now I want to, real quick, I just saw that NVIDIA has hit the 3 trillion mark,
Yep.
passes Apple in value.
Past Apple in value. Yep.
I want to do a quick picture look at the, for those of on video, for the funniest police car, criminals will only laugh, not do crime.
Where is that? In
That's line. I'm in the picks part. What do you think it is? Funny. It says funniest police car.
Oh my God.
Do I have to give you any more breadcrumbs there? Sorry, line.
Here we go. I got it. I didn't realize you were in it. The Tesla Cybertruck has been converted into a police car. Wow, what a terrible
I don't know if that's
idea.
real or not, but it is awful. I laugh every time I see them. I literally laugh out loud every time I see one of those things.
Yeah.
And finally, we need an intervention
No, we don't, Jeff.
for Paris.
Stay away from me.
No, Paris. Jeff has sadly miscalculated. I will stand by tab hoarding with you.
It's correct.
Yes,
the
it's correct. It is
This
correct.
from X.com. I probably have a brain disease because I genuinely believe I need every one of them. According to one tab, you have, stand back, 6,775 tabs.
I do have to say I don't think I've achieved numbers like that, but I am impressed, and I will not give you crap.
Is
for
that
it.
all at once? They're not all open.
Well, no, it's because I use one tab whenever I have a lot of tabs going on. Frankly, my most common use of one tab is whenever I'm going on this show and I need to make room memory-wise to be on Zoom for 3 hours or whatever. So then I click
So
the
it's
one
our
tab button
fault.
on like 20 different windows and they all go in there. And then if I need to search for them again, they're all there,
So
saved.
this is actually of great interest to me. Is this your habit as you're researching for a story or whatever, or what chicken to buy?
Yes.
You will open multiple tabs and you'll have them all open at once.
I will open. I'm trying to see if I can get a count here. Let's see. I'll read the ones that I closed before I got in here. One was a window with 19 tabs. Another window with 7. Another window with 36 tabs. A window with 16 tabs. A window with 20 tabs. These are all from today. A window with 24 tabs. Another window with 11 tabs. 6 tabs. 23 tabs. I'm still on today. Okay, that's all today.
I'm traumatized because I recently had some sort of crash where previous session could not be reloaded. And since then, I'm already back to 103, and this was like a couple of days ago. So,
I don't understand.
Now, have you-
as a non-tab person, I don't get it. What?
How are you a non-tab person? Are you just looking at one humble web page
I
at a
have
time?
I have 2 tabs
He moves
open
on.
right now. I close tabs all the time. Now I pin tabs. I do have some pinned tabs, so maybe that's what we're talking about here. This is in Firefox. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. These are sites that I go to all the time, like Tech Meme and so
That's like
forth.
bookmarks, though.
These are more like bookmarks. So
Yeah,
these are actually the sites that I go to
I
as
have
we
23
as I research.
tabs I've opened during this show.
So you never.
And that's like
basically
me
you
closing
just,
tabs.
You never.
I try not to. I have to be careful when I close them because if I close them too soon, I will need them immediately a half a second.
Well, you know
after I
about
close them.
history, right?
It's the problem is I'm relying on the browser technology, and I keep achieving inadvertently tab bankruptcy because it blows itself up and I can't get them back. But
Yeah.
normally I'm just trying to keep it as the running to-do list. It's easier to go back to them, or if they're closed, it's a little too out of sight, out of mind.
See, it's interesting.
Now, mind you,
because-
the new Chrome has uses AI to organize your
that's not a good
tabs.
Oh
idea.
God, no!
I think
no,
that's
no.
that-
I mean,
That's like a stick shift
My
driver.
tabs are in specific orders, and I need them to stay that way.
yeah.
So you move them around.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
I would
This
be
is also how I feel about Windows on Mac. They, I believe, automatically have a system on that will reorganize the order of your
Yeah, I
windows.
turned that
and, like,
off,
swipe
too.
left and right. I turn that off because
Yeah.
I have an order and it does not need to be messed
Right.
with.
No, I agree with you on that.
And I am interested in what Paris would recommend as tab managers because I've been relying on the
one tab.
browsers and
I really like one tab, honestly, because especially, I mean, you can then, like, I'll hit the one tab button in Chrome or whatever, and it will save, it'll say, like, you've saved your window that had 26 tabs, and it'll have the icon for it and the name of the website. And so back when I had a computer with less RAM, I would do that often whenever I overloaded my computer. Luckily, or I guess unluckily, I now have a computer that I maximize just to be able to hold as many tabs as possible. So I'm unchained.
But first of all, you get that many tabs, you can't tell from the tab what that page is, right? It's just
See, Leo, there's this, that is a problem. If I ever get to the point where you can't really even read the description at the top, then I move the tabs around. But there's also a feature, I assume this is in other browsers, where right now I'm working on a story about a nonprofit organization. So I was looking I knew I had a section of tabs that were all the different annual reports. And so I just type in my browser window, annual report, and then it says, like, do you want to jump to these tabs? And I click it, and then I go there, and I'm back in my spot.
You can only look at one tab at once, though, right? You never look at you don't like to split the window.
I've got two screens up right now, so I can look at two tabs, or I could have multiple things on one screen.
I just don't understand it as an organizational style, and I also know that browsers just hate it. I mean, it's just a terrible thing to do to your computer.
Well, no, now Chrome will basically turn off a tab and if it's not used up for a while.
Well,
so
that must be annoying to you. The tab contingent.
As soon as you click on it,
Yeah, the problem is that the web
there. It just fades it.
It's hidden.
The web isn't fully isn't stateless anymore, so they're constantly using the data connection and doing some processing while it's open.
That's right.
So I think the point is it stops that to kind of make it stateless, and then when you go back, it wakes it up.
I don't know. I'm a tab closer.
Apparently, it is a girly thing to have many tabs.
No.
Yeah.
No, I have learned that I am in the minority, that most people have lots of tabs, especially technical people.
Actually, this is something else. The Venn diagram of things I have in common with Mike Masnick is he has massive loads of tabs as well.
Oh, yeah.
I feel left out. Honestly, everybody I know is tab heavy. Yeah. And I just don't understand. I don't get how, I don't understand the workflow at all. I close tabs as I go.
Josh Benton from Neiman Lab, this was a while ago. He's known for it. He will have 500 some tabs open, not stored in.
Do you leave lights on when you leave a room? Do you leave as you go through the house?
No, but
you turn on lights. You just leave them
honestly, if you're not going to be, there was a study on this recently with the way current lights are. If you're going to be back in that room within 15 minutes, it is actually worse for your battery and wastes more energy to turn it off and on.
I thought that was true with incandescents. I didn't know it was true with the LEDs. I don't think it's true with LEDs.
Yeah. I go around turning lights off everywhere I am. I'm like my dad.
Yeah.
Close the window. You don't want to air condition the neighborhood.
You growl on the way.
The answer to your question is if I'm embroiled with a project and I might not be able to finish the project, plus I'm embroiled with multiple projects, I'm going to open all the tabs necessary for it. I'm shopping for something. I've Googled it. I've clicked on a whole bunch of tabs to open reviews. I've opened tabs for the products. And it's going to stay there till I'm done with the project, so I don't have to go retrace my steps and produce everything I needed to be able to finish my project. So the problem is, some of this is the problem of having an awful lot of stuff going on at any particular time.
This is interesting. So incandescent light bulbs should be turned off whenever they're not needed because they're so inefficient. Halogens are more efficient, but you should turn them off whenever they're not needed. This is from energy.gov, so you know it's true. CFL lighting, that's fluorescent, right? Compact fluorescence. That's the one, if you're going to be out of the room for 15 minutes or less, leave it on. LED lighting. The operating life of an LED is unaffected by turning it on and off, while lifetime is reduced for fluorescent lamps. That's why you don't turn it off. It has no effect on LEDs. So LEDs, turn them off. Although they sip energy, so it's not terrible.
Yeah, I think it's about someone was doing a calculation. I was reading this the other day. It's something if it's left on for 17 hours, it might add a couple of pennies to your electricity.
Compared to incandescent lighting, which really is power hungry. But we don't have any more incandescent bulbs. Every time I put in a new LED bulb, I shout to her, "There's another bulb I'll never have to change again."
No, I had a couple weeks ago, I had an electrical problem with a drop neutral, and the voltage problems popped my LED bulbs.
Oh, that's not good.
I turned on the lamp and
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah. So, it didn't pop them in terms of crack, but it blew them out.
It broke them.
Yeah.
Have we discussed the Livermore light bulb?
Yes, many times.
What?
But just like the Livermore light bulb, that story continues on and on and on. We've actually discovered it on this show before. I used to work
Every
in a
feature
radio
writer.
station, KNBR in San Francisco, in the late 80s. The DJ before me would do a regular check every week to see if the light bulb was still on. And even then, it was the world's longest burning light bulb. And there is, in fact, a camera on it, which is kind of cool. So, or is there? Maybe there used to be.
There is.
It's very dim. You know, it's
well, it's an old light bulb. It's 100 years old.
Yeah, it's not a bright.
On the
light bulb.
evening of May 20th, 2013, the general public witnessed through a dedicated webcam that the bulb had apparently burnt out. The next morning, an electrician was called in to confirm its status. It was determined the bulb had not burnt out, but the power supply was found to be faulty.
Wow.
Approximately 9 hours and 45 minutes later, the light was reestablished.
1901.
I'm going to call foul on that. It just doesn't seem right.
You think it's a conspiracy, Leo. You think it's a deep fake. You think it's disinformation. You think it's a lie and propaganda. Is that what you think?
Well, it is
Chinese
the
people do it.
mystery, a mystery of the centennial
He read
bulb.
about it in the Epoch Times.
Yes, that's right. Cathy Gellis, pick of the week.
I picked the AIDS Life Cycle ride because I wanted to do it this year.
Look how
and
much they
I
raised.
didn't get to, but I have done it before in my life, and they're currently on the road now, and it was just such an interesting adventure, and I wanted to have that adventure again. Although it took a while because it's been like
It's
maybe
San Francisco
12
to L.A.
Yeah. And
You're kidding me. You've done that?
I've done that. And when you get there, they offer you a discount on signing up for the following year. And I was sort of like, this may be a once in a lifetime thing.
That's the bad
but
time
I
to
guess
ask you if you want to do it again.
But I mean, for some people they did. But I think I've cooked enough that, and last year I leveled up in my cycling in a certain way where I was faster, and I was sort of like, okay, I think I'm ready to go do it again. But then for reasons, that didn't happen this year. So I wonder if it's in my future, but I was sort of like drooling over it. And so anyway, I wanted to share, and they're on the road this week. So
raising money to end AIDS. I mean, I wish I could do this. This looks amazing. It must be both fun and challenging and fascinating because you're going through some of the most interesting parts of California.
California is a great state to bike through. It's a really interesting experience. It's an organized ride, and the degree of organization is... So normally I do a lot of one-day rides. So I'll do centuries, and century rides also have, that's 100 miles. They'll also have smaller variations like metric centuries that are 65 miles or 100 kilometers, and then they'll have 30 miles and something like that. And the one-day rides can be, they vary in terms of how well they're supported, but they'll have sag wagons usually and snacks at various places, and then usually like a meal when you get to the end. This ride had all of that, but also because it was a multi-day ride, you had this little village of tents, and they basically migrated the village down the state as well, and just a ton of support with the roadies because you're breaking your body, you're breaking your spirit, you're breaking your body. It's a really tough thing. I mean, some people do it where they raise the money and then they ride as much as they want, and then they just get sagged and party at the camps and stuff. So some people do it that way. But when I did it and I was raising the money, it was like, I feel like obligated to ride every single mile. And it was hard to ride every single mile. I did not like the headwind into Paso Robles. I do not like Paso Robles because it has a headwind, and I will, forever associate that moment with Paso Robles. But it was a neat thing to say that I had done. And I don't know, you have to clear everything out of your life than riding, because all you're doing that day is you wake up, you eat, you ride, you eat, you ride, you eat, you ride, you eat, you ride, then you shower and sleep. And that's your day, and that's all you can accommodate. But
does your
it's interesting.
butt really hurt?
They offer, as part of what
That's
they
what would
supply,
kill me.
chamois cream, which I did not use the first day and learned my lesson.
Yeah.
So you use that. And you get into a routine. It's all porta potties. I didn't flush a toilet for a week. That was
Yikes.
sort of weird. I lost weight, but they tell you do not try to do that because you need every calorie you can inhale.
And drink a lot.
Drink a lot, because they're like, if you're not expelling it, you're not drinking
Are there
enough.
bad hills?
Oh yeah, they even have a graph of the hills as you go.
There were significant ones. They have some that are sort of storied. The issue is when you've got hills and distance. But basically the point is the headwind is sort of special because normally the route is, the prevailing winds are from the north into the south. So you basically get I guess it's actually you're getting sucked to LA where the winds basically blow you down there. But every so often, like, because there's different valleys, you'll be in a valley and you'll go up a valley. And like, if the pressure is different, the wind may be different.
Total elevation gain in day one, 4,716 feet. There is a lot of hill climbing.
That's the one coming. That's the start where you climb up in the Bay Area. You're basically out of. They start at the Cow Palace and you go up basically to Skyline and.
Oh wow!
And then you actually, I think you go down on the other side and you end up on one, and then you.
Whoa! So my palms are sweating for two reasons. One is southbound on Highway 1, and are there bridges?
No bridges.
No bridges.
I don't remember how much we were on one. I don't remember the whole route, but I think we went up. We went up to the ridge and then come down the other side.
Bridges. So. Are there any bridges is all he cares about. Jeff, why are you even asking? You're never going to do this.
Oh, of course not.
Okay.
God, no.
Okay. They are right now in the middle of it. They started on Sunday. They end next Saturday.
Yeah.
So this, if you want to give them some money, you can donate at the website, which is AIDSLifecycle.org, or prepare for it next June.
Yeah, so it's in my list of I think I'm ready to try it again.
Nice.
But the other ride I did, which was not supported officially, I've also ridden from Sacramento to Reno, but I did that on my own.
Do you wouldn't want to do this without training for at least a year?
You should do at least some.
Yeah. And they do have lots of little rides that you can practice and so forth.
Yeah, they'll do. I mean, people will get together and do rides, and they have people who lead them. I mean, and for a really good cyclist, I mean, there's some people who are just such gifted cyclists. They're like mountain goats. They don't see the hills. They just ride like everything's in 2 dimensions. One of the hills had somebody like bop up to the top, and then he turned around and came down, and then was doing it again.
Amy Webb should know about this. She's definitely a long distance cyclist, and would probably love this.
I didn't think I was, but I have Huey Lewis and the News to thank for this. But it turns out I am.
Nice.
Yes. So.
Did you listen to Huey all the way?
I didn't listen to music going down, but the time that I did it, and we can date this, this was the first year they had charging tables so you could charge your phone, and some people had like little solar things that they would attach. And I remember like logging into Twitter at camp, and this is when the Snowden news broke. So that's what was going on. But that was the most media.
For me, it would be that's me Espresso would have been a much needed song.
You probably wouldn't want that for 548 miles.
500.
There'd probably be a moment where it'd get a little grating.
Yeah. I don't particularly. I don't think it's safe to listen to music, but I don't like to. Like, I don't really have a need for media consumption when I'm on the bike. Biking is something I'm able to do. I don't mind doing it with people, but I can do it by myself, and just you end up in this weird groove, and I find that like listening to side entertainment almost disrupts that groove, I think.
Yeah. Cathy, so nice to have you. I appreciate it. Cathy Gellis, attorney at law, our expert. She writes for Tech Dirt. She writes amicus briefs for the Copia Foundation, and we have her on as often as we can. It's so great to have you, and it's nice when you come up. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Cathy Gellis. Thank you, Paris Martineau, working on some exciting new... Can you rate your stories based on the number of tabs required?
Or how many feet of red string?
This is a 400 tab
Definitely,
story.
I mean... There are some that are juicier than others that have less tabs, but I do like the tab system.
All the tabs on this one. If you have a tip for her tabs, Martineau.01 at Signal. Martineau.01. Thank you, Paris. Please forgive me.
Thank you.
I'm just going to ask you to forgive me at the end of every show from now on.
I think it's a good policy.
Yeah, please forgive me. Leonard Tao, Professor for Journalistic Innovation, the Director of the Townite Center
Emeritus
for Entrepreneurial Journalism at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York, Emeritus. Thank you, Jeff. Gutenberg.com is the place to go. He's exhausted, so we're going to get out of here after only 3 hours. So
I noticed that the pillow behind me is in my rest position.
It's waiting for you.
I was there for a few hours.
It's waiting for you. That's a good couch to sleep on. Will that accommodate?
It's not fully horizontal. I
was going to say, will that? Yeah, you want to accommodate your full length.
Now, if you saw me on it, I can go do it now. You'll see how much my feet go over.
Oh, you go over the top. I need a couch that I can lie flat out on. Here he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Say goodbye to Jeff Jarvis.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We do this show every Wednesday.
There he
2 p.m.
goes.
Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC.
I tell you, if you're under 62 inches, there's a lot more couches available for full extended
Under
sleeping.
62 inches. That's the key.
Yeah.
Don't never
I will
grow
say, I
past
got a
that.
93-inch couch fit in this apartment. It's
Oh,
pretty
my
lovely.
goodness. I need one like that. Mine is also
recommend
too
it.
short. If you want to watch us do the show live, YouTube has it, youtube.com/twit/live. We turn on the cameras and the sound right at the beginning of the show, turn it off right at the end. So you hit the bell. That way you'll know when we go live. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show available at twit.tv/twig. You can also subscribe in your favorite podcast player, audio or video or both. But we do encourage you to subscribe. We also thank our members. Club Twit is the only way that we can keep this show on the air. Your donations keep the lights on, keep the staff employed. They don't go into my pocket, but they do line the pockets of our contributors, and we are very grateful for your membership. It's only $7 a month, ad-free versions of all the shows. You get lots of benefits, but most importantly, that nice warm and fuzzy feeling that you're supporting the kind of programming you enjoy listening to. You know what? If you don't enjoy it, you don't have to join. That's the rule. But if you like it, do me a
How
favor.
could you not enjoy it?
Well, you
How
just sat
could
through
you
3
not?
hours of it. Twit.tv/clubtwit if you want to join. I'd love to have you in the club. It's a great group of people, too. That's another nice benefit. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. Goodbye. So long on This Week in Google. Bye-bye. Take care.